Morning. Good morning to all.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our faculty members of the college department, the College of Medicine department. Good morning. So before we start our program, let us have first the opening prayers, singing of the Philippine National Anthem, as well as the JMC hymn via AVP. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our faculty members of the college department.
Good morning.
The College of Medicine Department. Good morning. So before we start our program, let us have first the opening prayers, singing of the Philippine National Anthem, as well as the JMC hymn via AVP. Sir Hein, dili po madungog. Sir Hein, dili po madungog. Okay, once again, good morning, teachers. Just for a moment while we are fixing some technical problems, we would like to welcome you to another set of our faculty in service training with the theme Keeping Abreast with the Fourth and Fifth Industrial Revolution in Education, ASEAN Integration, and Research Trends. And our scope for this morning is the new normal teaching pedagogy, or the N2 Love Pedagogy. Okay, once again, good morning, teachers. Just for a moment while we are fixing some technical problems, we would like to welcome you to another set of our faculty in service training with the theme Keeping Abreast with the Fourth and Fifth Industrial Revolution in Education, ASEAN Integration, and Research Trends. And our scope for this morning is the new normal teaching pedagogy, or the N2 Love Pedagogy, or the Andragogy. Okay. While we are still fixing with a technical problem, we are reminding everyone to please do not forget to register on the link that the HRMD department has sent to our group chat. Thank you. Good morning, teachers. For those who have just entered the meeting, we are reminding you to please fill out the form that the HRMD has sent in our chat box. Just trace back the conversation po for you to be able to find the link. Thank you. Oh, okay. They just resent the link po. Thank you. Good morning, teachers. For those who have just entered the meeting, we are reminding you to please fill out the form that the HRMD has sent in our chat box. Just trace back the conversation po for you to be able to find the link. Thank you. Oh, okay. They just resent the link po. Thank you. Okay, so good morning once again, faculty members of the college department, as well as
Tapos,
the faculty members
dili.
of our College of Medicine. For us to formally start the program, let us have the opening prayer, singing of the Philippine National Anthem, and the JMC hymn. Okay, so good morning once again, faculty members of the college department, as well as the faculty members of our College of Medicine. For us to formally start the program, let us have the opening prayer, singing of the Philippine National Anthem, and the JMC hymn.
Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our family. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. For forgiveness for all the times we have offended you. When we forget some knowledge. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Brothers and sisters, our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times we have offended you, when we forget to acknowledge your presence in the image of our brothers and sisters, and for moments we fail to be good stewards of the blessings you have given us. Continue to guide and protect each one of us, Lord, that we may always walk in the lights of your everlasting love and mercy. Grant us, Father, with your comfort in times of distress and with your strength in times of weakness. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with the prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
our students due to many factors affecting their academic. Once again, good morning, college and medicine teachers. Welcome to another set of our faculty in service training with a theme, Keeping Abreast with the Fourth and Fifth Industrial Revolution in Education, ASEAN Integration, and Research Trends. When we talk about new normal process of education, we may always carry the notion of having more effort has been experienced by our students due to many factors affecting their academic performance at home. And more patience from us teachers has been sent out considering such circumstance. We tend to be very receptive and more understanding just to make sure students feel that they are being acknowledged. In this new normal, we've extended and considered various concerns just to cater the needs of our students and for them to meet the requirement of the curriculum. It is now imperative for us to really need to establish a stronger connection with our students. We must make it clear to our students that everyone is encouraged to reach out with any of their concerns or roadblocks during this pandemic. We teachers have abruptly figured out and found new modes of teaching for the sake of providing our students with assured, consistent, and quality education. With that being said, it is very essential for us to get reminded and embrace new ideas in dealing with these no-time challenges brought by the COVID-19. Thus, our scope for today's seminar is very timely in assuring efficiency of our teaching methods while dealing with this pandemic. Topic for today's in-service faculty training seminar is the new normal teaching pedagogy or the N2 love pedagogy and andragogy. For our resource speaker for this morning, she is a BS Ed and BE Ed degree holder with 3 master's degree earned locally and in abroad. She has earned her PhD in English and Doctor of Education. She is appointed to various positions in academia, actively engaged as Executive Board Officer in PAFTE and President in Secteya Region 11. She is appointed as Technical Panel by the Commission on Higher Education, a former employee of the University of Mindanao, and is now currently my professor and connected at the University of Southeastern Philippines. Teachers and faculty members, please help me welcome our resource speaker for today's event, Dr. Ruby A. Serano. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Ma'am Serano.
Nakamute pa po kayo, Ma'am Ruby.
Teachers can change lives with just the right mix of chalk and challenges. To the founding president, Pastor Apollo Siki Buloy, to the school president, Dr. Jose Maria Gonzalez, to the administration officials, deans, and faculty members, happy weekend, everyone. Thank you for the invitation of another session. Teachers can change lives with just the right mix of chalk and challenges. To the founding president, Pastor Apollo Siki Buloy, to the school president, Dr. Jose Maria Gonzalez, to the administration officials, deans, and faculty members, happy weekend, everyone. Thank you for the invitation of another session of sharing, learning, and motivating. The term new normal first emerged in the field of business. It was used to caution the economist. Since then, the term has been used in different contexts to mean that something which was previously unusual has become usual. The Urban Dictionary described new normal as the situation of being after some intense change. It substitutes the accepted, habitual, usual state after a certain event happened. but virtual.
Well,
But
what has
we
become
are
new
engaged
normal?
in an online
The
blended
lockdowns,
or other
quarantines,
forms of teaching
masks,
modalities as
washing
enabler
hands,
to the
physical
teaching learning
distancing,
process.
and the technology.
Now, let us
These
focus
are
our attention to the new
manifestations of the
normal in the
new
context of
normal.
education.
In the context
Now,
of
how do we ensure
education,
learning in a
new
new
normal is being
setting?
away
We
from the
can only
four corners
ensure
of our
that learning
classrooms.
took place
No
if we have
face-to-face
properly set
lectures,
the
no
norms
actual
of
learners
learning
around, but
perspectives.
virtual.
But before that,
But we are
let us look
engaged
back
in an
the
online
way it
blended
used to be.
or other forms of
We
teaching
used to think
modalities
of
as
teachers
enablers to
masters
the
of their
teaching
domain
learning
and rulers
process.
of their
Now,
classroom.
let us focus our
They took
attention
the
to the new
standards
normal in the
and the
context of
curriculum
education.
frameworks that their
Well,
school
how do we ensure
gave them
learning in a new
and
normal
provided
setting?
students with
We can only
instructions and
ensure that
assessment to
learning
help their
took place
students
if we have
master the
properly
content.
set the norms of learning
Since then,
perspectives. But before that,
accountability has come
let us
knocking to
look
the
back
doorsteps
the
of
way we
schools
used
and
to be.
classroom everywhere.
We used to
Teachers
think
are
of
no
teachers
longer the
as
masters
masters
of
of
their
their
own
domain
domains,
and
but
rulers of
rather
their
an integral
classroom.
part of an
They took
educational
the
system
standards and the
derived to
curriculum
provide students
frameworks
with a
that their
more
school gave
integrated
them
and
and provided
personalized
students with
learning
instruction
experience
and
with
assessment to help their
support
students
structures
master the
and
content.
interventions designed
Since
to help
then,
them succeed in their
accountability has
learning
come
journey.
knocking to the doorsteps
Well,
of
today
schools
I
and
will
classrooms
unfold before you
everywhere.
three important
Teachers
points
are
as
no
we
longer the
explore the
masters of
new
their own
normal learning
domains,
in
but
focus.
rather an integral part of an educational
First,
system
the
derived to provide
emerging learning
students with a
perspective
more
in the new normal.
integrated and personalized
Second,
learning experience
modalities and
with
learning approaches
support
in the new
structures
normal.
and interventions
Third,
designed to help them
teacher in
succeed
the
on their
new
learning
normal.
journey. Well, today I will
How do the
unfold before
emerging
you
learning
three
perspective
important points as we
shape the
explore
learning?
the new normal
What are the
learning in
best instructional
focus.
practices for the new normal? And how do we
First,
perform teaching in
the
the new
emerging
normal?
learning perspective in the new
Well, the
normal.
world is so busy
Second,
in preparing the 1.5
modalities and
billion
learning
learners for
approaches
the
in
new
the new
normal.
normal.
One should feel privileged
Third,
studying in a
teacher
school
in the new
where the
normal.
teachers and the curriculum are responsive,
How do the emerging
appropriate,
learning
and
perspective
relevant to
shape
the
the
changing
learning?
paradigm of the teaching
What are the
learning
best
process.
instructional practices for the new
This
normal?
unpredicted
And
disruption
how do
has
we
challenged
perform
the
teaching in the new
stakeholders and
normal?
policy makers to revive,
Well, the world is so
reimagine,
busy in
and reshape
preparing the
the
1.5
ascending
billion learners
perspectives
for the
and
new normal.
practices.
One
There
should
were
feel
various
privileged
emerging learning
studying in a school
perspectives,
where the
and let me
teachers and the
present some
curriculum
of
are
them.
responsive, appropriate, and relevant with the changing
Included in my
paradigm
sharing
of the
today
teaching
are the
learning
following:
process. This unpredicted
psychological,
disruption has challenged the
curricular,
stakeholders and policymakers to
people-centric,
revive,
experiential,
reimagine, and reshape
futuristic,
the schooling
distant, and
perspectives
critical.
and practices.
Next
There
slide,
were various
please.
emerging learning perspectives, and let me present some of them.
Let me present to you
Included
this
in my
readiness
sharing
model for
today
new
are the
normal in
following:
education. In the context of
psychological,
psychological perspective,
curricular,
this was initially
people-centric,
coined by Sabarwal.
experiential,
This model highlights the
futuristic,
trifocal
distance,
responsibility
and
shared by
critical.
three pillars in the
Next
learning
slide,
process:
please.
the teacher, the learner, and the parent. The parent's readiness. The learner's
Let me present to you this
readiness
readiness
is at
model for
par
new normal
with the
in
parent's
education
readiness,
in the context of
meaning
psychological
it is
perspective.
important that
This
parents
was
are ready
initially coined by
prior to the
Sabarwal.
readiness of the
This model
learners.
highlights
The
the
learning
trifocal
process has never been so
responsibility shared by
challenging
three
for any
pillars
of the
in the learning
stakeholders.
process:
With
the
a limit
teacher,
of
the
one or
learner,
two
and the
devices at home,
parent. The
parents must
parent's
train their
readiness.
children in
The
using the
learner's
online time,
readiness
research
is
time,
at
and
par with
assessment
the parent's
and
readiness,
assignment
meaning
completion
it
time.
is important
The
that
psychological
parents are
perspective
ready
of students
prior
being
to
in a
the readiness
non-learning
of the
environment
learners.
for long
The
must be
learning
given
process has
special
never been so
attention.
challenging for
An
any of the
accessible channel
stakeholders.
of
With a
communication to
limit of
address the
one or two
frequent
devices at
concern of
home,
parents in
parents
handling
must
their
train their
children
children
must
in
be
using the
established.
online time
pay
research
attention
time, and
to the
assessment, and
social-emotional
assignment
aspects of the learners.
completion
And the best
time.
way is to
The
listen to their
psychological
concerns
perspective of students
patiently
being in a
and
non-learning environment for
After
long
the
must be
parents'
given
readiness
special
had been
attention.
identified,
An
then
accessible
we go
channel
to
of
not the
communication to
learner's
address
readiness,
the
because the next
frequent
would be
concern
the
of parents
teacher's
in
readiness.
handling their children
The
must
school
be
must ensure
established.
that all
Pay
teachers and other
attention
support staff
to the
are
social,
trained
emotional
well
aspects
to
of the
handle any
learners.
hurdles
And the
that could
best way
hinder the
is to
learning
listen to their
process.
concerns
Various webinars
patiently
from the
and resolve.
NGOs, foundations,
After the
industry
parents'
experts, or
readiness
the
had been
policymakers feel that
identified,
does not
then we
guarantee
go to
the mindset
not the
change or
learner's readiness,
adaptability to
because
new
the
normal.
next would be the
Teachers
teacher's
often use
readiness.
technology to
The
articulate
school must ensure that
existing
all teachers
syllabus-centered
and other
pedagogy
support staff
rather than
are
using
trained well
technology to shift
to handle
themselves
any
to
hurdles that could
learner-centered
hinder the learning
pedagogy.
process.
The most
Various
crucial part to
webinars
keep
from the
in mind is
NGOs,
this:
foundations,
hands-on training on
industry
social,
experts, or the
emotional
policymakers still
learning
does
domain.
not guarantee the
After the
mindset
parents'
change
and
or
teachers'
adaptability to new
readiness are
normal.
set, then
Teachers
it's
often
the
use
learner's
technology to
readiness.
articulate
On the other hand,
existing
the perspective
syllabus-centered
is focused on the
pedagogy
most
rather
critical
than
factor
using
that plays
technology
an
to shift
significant role
themselves
in
to
the success of any
learner-centered
remote
pedagogy.
learning program
The most
in the
crucial part to
readiness
be
of the
kept in mind is
participants.
this:
Training students on
hands-on
being
training on
self-directed
social
and responsible
emotional
for their learning
learning
outcomes
domain.
is what will
After
make
the
them
parents and
future
teachers'
ready.
readiness are
Few
set,
steps that
then
tread them
it's the
towards
learner's
the better
readiness.
future
On
are
the other
regular
hand,
training
the
sessions
perspective
on
is focused
essential
on the most
components
critical
like
factor that
mathematics,
plays a
time
significant
management,
role in the
and
success
developing
of
excellent
any
study
remote
skills.
learning
So,
program
that
in
is
the
the
readiness of the
psychological
participants.
perspective.
Training students
Let's
on
move to
being
another
self-directed
perspective
and
that is
responsible for
grounded
their
on
learning outcomes
curricular
is what will
underpinnings.
make them
Kahapay
future ready.
identified the
Few
curriculum
steps
goal,
that tread them
curriculum
towards the
content,
better
and
future
curriculum
are
instructional
regular training
approaches and
sessions on
evaluation.
essential components like math
Considering the new
etiquettes,
normal period,
time management,
a
and
rethinking of
developing excellent
education within
study
the curricular
skills.
perspective
So
is
that's the
important.
psychological
It presents
perspective.
glimpse of
Let's move to
opportunities and
another perspective
challenges in the
that is
future of
grounded on
education.
curricular
As far as
underpinnings.
curriculum is
Kahapay
concerned,
identified the
by
curriculum
discussing
goal,
the curriculum
curriculum
possibilities in terms
content,
of
and
goal,
curriculum
content,
instructional
approach, and
approaches and
evaluation,
evaluation.
educators in the field
Considering the
will be
new
better
normal period,
informed of
a
some key
rethinking of
problems,
education within the
decisions,
curricular
and
perspective
even
is
solutions
important.
that must
It
be
presents
urgently
glimpses of
considered
opportunities and
as we approach the
challenges
new
in the
era.
future of
A
education.
curriculum goal
As
that must
far
be
as
emphasized in the
curriculum
new
is
normal
concerned,
curriculum
well,
is
by
to
discussing the
develop
curriculum
preparedness
possibilities in terms
competencies
of goal,
among the
content,
learners.
approach, and
When it comes to
evaluation,
curriculum content,
educators in the
there are
field will be
challenges in
better
whether to
informed of
integrate
some
or
key
reduce.
problems,
On the other hand,
decisions, and
instructional
even solutions
approaches
that
mostly
must be
shifting to online
urgently
modalities
considered
could be
as we approach
considered
the
in the
new
light
era.
of
A
different
curriculum goal that
factors.
must be emphasized
That
in the
is
new
the
normal
emerging
curriculum is to
perspective in
develop
curriculum.
preparedness competencies
Taking
among the
into
learners.
consideration
When it
the
comes to
challenge to
curriculum
integrate
content,
or
there are
reduce
challenges
needs
to
to
whether to integrate or
include
reduce.
set
On
of
the other hand,
competencies that are
instructional
responsive,
approaches
appropriate,
mostly
and
shifting to
relevant.
online
When we
modality
say
could be
reduce,
considered
it
in the
means to
light
say
of
teach content
different
that is
factors.
essential and remove
That is
content
the
that is not
emerging
based on the parameters
perspective
of
in curricular,
significance, relevance, and
taking into
utility.
consideration
Now,
the
talking about
challenge to
adoption of
integrate or
learning
reduce
modalities,
means
it
to
means to
integrate
say that you have
includes
to take
set
on
of
emerging
competencies that are
discussions
responsive,
with focusing
appropriate, and
context in the
relevant. And when
curriculum
we say
lens as a
reduce,
curriculum
it
development
means to say
element.
teach
And what are
content
those?
that is
Goal,
essential and
content,
remove content that is
approach,
not
and
based on the
evaluation.
parameters of
Well, let us
significance,
move to another
relevance, and
perspective.
utility. Now,
They call
talking
it
about adoption of learning
people-centric,
modalities, it means to
an
say
emerging
that you
perspective
have to
that is
take on
shaping the new
emerging
normal
discussions
is
with focusing context in the curriculum lens as to curriculum development element and what are those: goal, content, approach, and evaluation. Well, let us move to another perspective. They call it people-centric, an emerging perspective that is shaping the new normal is people-centric perspective. With the rapid change in delivery models, there is an emerging opportunity to re-evaluate curricular engagement and school operations. This perspective promotes partnerships with school and relevant government entities to test new delivery models that are interactive and focus on using the best global content for lectures while teachers support the individual learning of each student. It also highlighted the creation of local and global working groups for schools as well as curriculum development, evaluation, and assessment processes in the light of the learner's education at home. In shaping the new normal, it is important that we create a multi-pronged approach to student evaluation and exam process. It could be through apps, it could be through a parent-teacher agreement, or it could be done through conferences or counseling sessions. Another emerging proposition in the field of education is the experiential perspective. It was highlighted that there are three learning domains in education. As we all know, as before, it is cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. But it has been enhanced in this context of its experiential perspective. Education in the new normal had adopted three domains: the knowledge, the skills, and mindsets. Well, experience is the right term. It is actually the perfect word to sum up the direction of education because it has moved towards during the past few months. The classroom's built environment is specifically designed to facilitate learning. There is the presence and instruction of a licensed professional teacher. But now, students and their guardians must work together with teachers, and the educational system recreate the learning experience in their home environment. Each home to consider with its own unique challenges. The concept now is not between teacher and the learner. The concept now is teacher, parent, and the learner. The concept is an intent to emphasize the importance of the three domains: knowledge, skills, and mindsets. When we think of knowledge in education, naturally, we often jump into discussing the content of the class, as in what is the knowledge that we hope students get out of the lesson, whether it is memorizing dates and places or understanding how to write a logical argument. With the changing landscape of education, teachers had to be equipped with necessary skills to respond to the challenges beyond the textbooks and worksheets that as students will be given. There are limitless resources available online, and it is important for students to learn not only how to look for information online, but also how to be discerning about what they are browsing through the internet. Mindset is a big deal in this perspective. Your attitude is how you feel about something. Your mindset shapes your attitude, and your attitude reinforces your mindset. Your mindset This states all on how you make sense of the world, and most importantly, how you make sense of yourself. Now, let us move to another perspective, the futuristic perspective. It has actually emerged in 2013, some 7 years ago. It has outlined the classroom of the future. The ideas are truly transformational. It identified 7 powerful ideas in learning. It is not so much that physical is out and digital is in, but the sheer scale and accessibility of digital resources, connections, and spaces are overwhelming. If in no other place other than the mindscape of the student, when it comes to reading, writing, communicating, saving, creating, sharing, well, digital is everything. In the futuristic perspective, this is among the biggest and most powerful ideas in future learning and should be central to any meaningful discussion therein. What are students learning? Why are they learning? And what are they doing with it? And what they know? Game-based learning aggregates the power of learning simulations, social gaming, emotional immersions, and digital literacy to produce a net effect of transparency and participation on the learner. Through social media, mobile learning, like blended learning, e-learning, and other inherently connected learning experiences, is possible to leverage the potential of interdependence of crowds. This occurs simply through crowdsourced knowledge through digital communities. Self-directed learning is almost certainly at the core of the future of learning. This proposition simply means not allowing learners to play with information, platforms, and ideas, not to ignore the access or the tools and patterns of 21st century life. So how beautiful and futuristic is this perspective? It creates the tomorrow's learning today. Now let's move to another perspective. The concept is clearly on distance learning. I know that you know this. This is very familiar because it is based on a 4 cycle components of distance learning, such as course design, course content, course instructor, and support system. The quality of the distance course is dependent on its instructional design. A good distance learning course has content which applies to its outlined course objectives. This proposition underscores the importance of the teacher as the implementer, as the facilitator of the course. It is also noted that support system in the areas of academics, administrative, and technical are necessary to achieve success in this modality. Without those, this will become a failure. As what I have mentioned, there were a lot of emerging perspectives. But you know, in the interest of time, I have only outlined 7 out of the many. The perspective of critical pedagogy is my personal choice for the very reason that the proponent is a professor from Davao City. Next slide, please. In this context, he posited the teaching of values-based education. So that is the perspective of critical pedagogy, authored by Babolok 2020, who is actually a professor based here in Davao City. I really love his perspective, his propositions. In this context, again, he posited the teaching of values-based education. This is a critical approach to teaching which utilizes problem-posing method.
Critical pedagogy is an educational approach that challenges students to develop the ability to recognize and criticize dominating theories and evaluate them in their social context. Now, online learning is not just about the use of technology, although the internet is crucial in the delivery of content. Since human beings are creators of value, they determine the meaning and purpose of technology. In this way, the set of values people have will influence online learning. Teachers cannot be more concerned about outcomes than about the process itself. So the process is crucial since the ability of the student to think critically is developed in the exchange between the student and the teacher. Without the face-to-face encounter between teacher and students, the challenge is finding ways to make learning an effective means to mold the values of young people. Well, this perspective is a critical approach. This is more of teaching about the problem, posing method of education. Now, the teacher cannot simply dump loads of information or deposit knowledge, but must pose problems to test the analytical and critical skills of students. The new normal must now emphasize the role of education as a source of inner strength that can empower the person to live while reinforcing values based on a social consciousness. Now, without this face-to-face encounter between teacher and students, the challenge is finding ways to make learning an effective means to mold the values of young people. Indeed, this new normal perspective redefined the meaning of moral commitment and human responsibility. So, I hope that all those perspectives added additional inputs to you to what is new normal in the context of education. Let us now explore some modalities and learning approaches. Well, does the new normal redefine pedagogy? How do we actually do online or offline learning? Well, no amount of free trials or complex digital tools will help. What we really need are best practices of these strategies now. So, for years, the Philippine educational system has been traditional but gradually changing to cater the demands of the new generation. As a matter of fact, before this new normal came to light, teaching and learning are already using the internet, computer, and other technologies in education. But the difference lies between having a face-to-face class and now in new normal classes, which are actually done virtually. Next slide, please. The Department of Education introduced three modalities, namely distance learning, blended learning, and homeschool. These learnings shall be delivered in the new normal, and these learnings are expected to create new perspectives in the course of education. Well, let's discuss first the first modality. The first modality is the distance learning, which itself has also three forms. First is the modular distance learning, where modules will be given to the learners and will be collected every Friday, I think, by the teacher. In this modality, parents must make a Dropbox or called as learning package where the teacher can place the modules. In return, the parents will also place the activities done by the learner. Okay, the second form is the online distance learning, wherein learners who opt to choose this modality must have internet connection. In this modality, the teacher and the learner will meet virtually, which is very familiar to you, and do their activities synchronous. Third is the television, radio-based instruction or media. This kind of modality is fitted to the learners who are committed to learn on their own. Now, the second modality is the blended learning. This commonly tagged as hybrid learning, since this is effective at helping a diverse student body. This modality is the combination of anything that is mentioned above. It may or may not require internet connection, and parents shall also pick up the learning modules in the school. Third and lastly is the homeschool modality. This kind of modality is effective if the learner has an available tutor or a parent who is qualified and almost available to facilitate the learning of the child. Well, there is really a great challenge ahead of this new normal. There's a lot to adjust and to embrace. But one thing is for sure, these modalities in learning presented can continually deliver quality, efficient, and effective education to our learners. As what DepEd Secretary had said, learning will continue, COVID or no COVID. Well, let's proceed to the concept of online learning. The online learning pedagogy exists long time ago. However, it became more popular during early 90s because of the technology explosion. With the rise of the internet and access to cheaper devices, many schools started offering the type of learning setup. Despite the many positive claims and promises of online learning, it still wasn't the top choice of many parents and students. Many until COVID-19 happened. There are several methods to develop online classes, and this will depend on the topic, your target student, requirements of your affiliated organization, and the demands of the user. For example, many colleges and universities give their instructors great interdependence and independence in developing online courses, while others provide strict guidelines for their structure. Online learning methods can mimic actual classrooms with required attendance at specific times, or can be self-paced or blended, or use a variety of tools to engage students and support learning. Online learning methods are actually very popular. We have 4 identified methodologies. We have asynchronous learning, we have synchronous online courses, we have competency-based online learning, and we have hybrid or blended online delivery mode of learning. Okay, so I know this is very familiar to you, asynchronous learning. This is a general term used to describe forms of education, instruction, and learning that do not occur in the same place or at the same time. The term is most commonly applied to various forms of digital and online learning in which students learn from instruction, such as pre-recorded video lessons or game-based learning that students complete on their own, that is not being delivered in person or in real time. Yet, asynchronous learning may also encompass a wide variety of instructional interactions, including email exchanges between teachers or online discussion boards and course management system that organize instructional materials and correspondence among many other variations. Now, how about synchronous online courses? Oh, the more that it is familiar to you, these courses take place in real time and can take many forms, including a virtual classroom, a live webinar, live webcast, a video, audio, conferencing, instant messaging, and more. Then the instructor and students all log in into the learning platform, and at the same time, the same day, at the same period, the instructor delivers the lecture, or probably the students delivering his or her report, have demonstrations, or other planned learning activity. The process is live, and the teachers and students can ask each other's question, clarification in real time. So that's the difference of asynchronous and synchronous. Well, how about the hybrid or blended online learning courses? As the name implies, this type of course combines a specific aspect of the synchronous and the asynchronous learning systems. They often have the scheduled live classes several times during the semester, in the case of college, but use pre-recorded lectures or presentation to deliver additional course materials. In another type of hybrid learning, this is what we call the flipped classroom learning. The students are required to self-study a particular topic and interact with the teachers in the classroom to clear doubts. How about the competency-based online learning? Well, it is a personalized approach to learning where specific skills are mastered to support a particular employment goal. A faculty mentor oversees the process and evaluates if and when competencies are reached. It is a self-paced program, but unlike a traditional asynchronous learning course, there are no pre-recorded lectures or other materials. The student and mentor together create a learning process using the web-based documents, books, probably job experience to help the learner develop skills or to define how and when competency has been achieved. Many colleges use competency-based learning to allow students who are already working in their field to achieve credit for skills that they already have or can quickly develop. So these credits include in the requirements for the course. So that is what we call competency-based online course. Now, how about the online teaching strategies? Here are the 10, probably 10 vital online teaching strategies that you need to bring dynamic learning out of the classroom and into the virtual world. So, the first one is you should choose your online teaching platform wisely. So, the site of your online teaching needs to be number one, accessible, equitable, communicative, monitorable, sustainable. What does it mean? So accessible. It's easy for the students and parents to use at home. It has printable activities for students without reliable internet or device access. So, the students can also talk directly to you as well as their peers. And this might be via a live chat or a discussion board. And they can also stay informed of student activity and progress. It is an automated reporting ideal. Your online teaching platform needs to be a realistic long-term solution that doesn't burn you out with undue amounts of time and effort. So, what online teaching tools are out there? You can choose from learning management systems. Your school might be using one of those already, probably Blackboard or Moodle, or they form a convenient base or homepage
for all your learning
Now
content.
remember, you don't need
Or
to find
you
a
may have the
single online
curriculum-aligned
tool or
online
teaching
programs
learning tool
such
that does
as
it all. You can
Mathletics or
use a
Read the
combination
Writer
of them.
Spelling. A
Actually,
great
just
option
make
for
sure that your
homework
students know how to
assignments
use your
and
chosen
individual
tools.
students practice
Now,
due to their
another
automated
online learning teaching
reporting.
strategy is
Or you
creating
can
a
have the
parent-teacher
cloud-based software
partnership for
such as
online
Google
teaching.
Classroom or Microsoft OneNote.
Well,
These are
parents really
perfect for
play a vital
real-time
role in
communication
online
and
teaching nowadays. They can
collaboration.
be the
Now remember,
motivators,
you don't need to find a
monitors,
single
and
online
aides for
tool or
your
teaching
students
learning
while you
tool
are on the
that
other
does it
side
all.
of the
You can
screen.
use a
But you
combination
have
of
to
them.
actively involve them
Actually,
first.
just
Let
make sure
them
that your
know
students
what
know
to
how to
expect
use your
from the
chosen
online teaching
tools.
period and
Now,
tell them how
another
they can
online
help.
learning teaching
Send
strategy
home
is
a
creating a
parent support
parent-teacher partnership
package,
for
or
online teaching.
if this is
Well,
possible, you can
parents
also
really
include
play
an
a vital
overview of
role
what
in
the
online
content will be
teaching
covered during the
nowadays. They
online
can be the
teaching period, or
motivators,
have some listing of
monitors,
clear
and aids
strategies
for
that
your
parents can use to
students while
support
you are
learning
on
at
the other
home,
side
or you
of the
can have
screen.
login details and
So,
access
but you have to
information for
actively
each
involve
online
them
teaching
first.
tools
Let them
that is
know
being
what to
used.
expect from
And
the
most
online
parents will
teaching
do what they
period and
can,
tell them
but keep
how they
your
can help.
expectations
Send home a parent
realistic.
support
It helps to
package,
think
or
of
if,
parents as
if, if this is
assistants,
possible,
but as
you can
always,
also include
classroom
an overview
teachers
of
in their
what the
own right.
content will be
So
covered
keep them
during the online
updated
teaching
on
period,
your
or
child's
have some
progress
listing
too.
of clear
You
strategies
will
that
leave
parents
them
can use to
feeling
support
confident
learning
that
at
their
home.
child
Or you
will
can
be
have
able to
login
still on
details and
track
access
even
information
if
for
the
any
classroom
online
has
teaching
been
tools
swapped
that
for the
is being
kitchen
used.
table.
And most
Well,
parents will do what they
deliver
can,
engaging
but
online
keep your
teaching content
expectations
across multiple
realistic.
modes.
It helps
So,
to think of parents as
diversity,
assistants, but as
diversify your
opposed to
online
classroom
teaching
teachers in their
strategies
own
to
right.
include
So keep them
a mix of
updated on
text
their
or
child's
sound and
progress too.
imagery,
You will
or
leave them
far more
feeling confident
engaging
that their child
affiliate
learning
worksheets.
is still
Or
on track,
here are some
even
ways
if the classroom
you are going
has
to
been swapped
schedule
for the
live
kitchen
classes via
table.
Zoom or
Well,
Skype, or
deliver
G Meet,
engaging
a
online
live
teaching
class
content
once a week
across
brings
multiple
back the engaging
modes.
dynamic
So,
of the classroom.
diversity,
Use the time to
diversify
kickstart a
your online
discussion,
teaching
or
strategies to
let them
include a
experience
mix
some
of
new and
text
exciting
or
content.
sound and
You can have video
imagery, or
lectures. You
far
can
more
put as much
engaging
time as
than
you
a
like
packet of
into
worksheets.
recording the
Or
content,
here are
though
some
heavy on
ways,
your
like
part,
you are going to
and the
schedule
students are
live
able to
classes
watch
via
it,
Zoom or
but
Skype
back as
or
many
Gmeet.
times as they
A
need.
live class
So
once a
another
week
is
brings back
you
the
also set
engaging dynamic
activities with
of the
gamified
classroom.
online learning
Use the time to
tools.
kickstart a
Now,
discussion,
curriculum
or
aligned
let
programs
them
such as
experience some new and
mathletics,
exciting
as what I have
content. You
mentioned,
can have
read the
video
writer,
lectures. You can put
spelling
as
are
much
designed
time
to
as you
keep
like
learning
into
engaging
recording
no
the
matter
content,
where
though
they
heavy on
take
your
place.
part,
They also
and the
come with
students are able to
automated
watch it,
reporting
but
and tailored
back as
learning
many times
journeys
as
for
they
each
need.
student.
So another
Now,
is
you can
you
also
also
start a
set
class blog,
activities with gamified
blog,
online learning
BLOG, or
tools.
vlog,
Now,
VLOG.
curriculum-aligned programs such
Assign
as
groups or individuals to
mathletics, as
post
what I have
blogs on different
mentioned, read the
aspects of the
writer,
topic.
spelling,
It's
are
a great
designed to keep
strategy
learning
for
engaging
going
no
into the
matter where
deeply
it's taking
portion of
place.
your
They
context.
also come with
Structure your
automated
online
reporting and
teaching to
tailored
create a
learning
sense of
journeys for
routine.
each student.
So your students
Now,
should
you
come
can
to
also
see
start
online
a class
teaching as a
blog,
regular and
blog,
predictable part of
B-L-O-G,
their
or
day.
vlog,
So use the following
VLOG.
strategies to turn
Assign
online
groups or
teaching into new
individuals to
normal.
post
You
blogs
can
on
create
different
places for
aspects
different
of the
learning
topic. It's
resources.
a great
Like your
strategy for
students should
going
know
into
exactly
the
where to
deepened
access the
portion
teaching
of your
sequence,
context.
the
Structure
resources
your
like video
online
links,
teaching
printable
to create a
handouts,
sense of
activities,
routine.
and
So
assignments.
your
So with
students should
everything in
come
its
to
right
see
place,
online
they
teaching
will be
as a
able to
regular
find their
and
way
predictable
around into
part of
virtual
their
classroom
day.
with ease.
So use
Another
the
is you
following
also create
strategies to
a
turn
flexible
online teaching into new
timetable.
normal.
You set
You can
different days
create
for different
places for
subjects
different
or even
learning
different
resources.
instructional
Like
strategies.
your
Like
students should know
you might
exactly
upload
where
a
to
video lesson
access
on
the teaching
Monday, or you
sequence,
set
the
individual
resources like
activities for
video links,
Tuesday,
printable
or then
handouts,
regroup for a
activities, and
discussion on
assignments. So
Wednesday.
with
So
everything in its
remember,
right place,
different
they will be
families will
able to
have
find
different
their way
learning
around into
schedules. So
virtual
keep it
classroom with
flexible
ease.
instead of Another
Another is you also create a flexible timetable. You set different days for different subjects or even different instructional strategies. Like you might upload a video lesson on Monday, or you set individual activities for Tuesday, or then regroup for a discussion on Wednesday. So remember, different families will have different home schedules. So keep flexible instead of trying to replicate a regular school day. So you set weekly goals and targets. Encourage your students to set goals for each week. This might be writing a new chapter of a story, setting a new personal best with practice or an activity, or it could be an achieving a certificate or reaching a new level in a certain program or event. Or it could be producing a journal entry that reflects on their week's learning. So those are the things that you can do. And then you also engage with students daily. Take time to connect each day by providing feedback, uploading some new resources, or even just saying hi or hello message. Your continued presence will encourage students to log on each day. And let your students talk to each other. Now, you should remove the isolation of online teaching by giving your students the opportunity to communicate open and not just about classwork. So what are then other strategies aside from the online sharing or virtual discussion? You can have discussion boards and forums. There are effective online teaching tools that you could also set up as an off-topic board for students to post about whatever is on their mind. You can also have the live chat. So chats allow you to bring the real-time discussions of the classroom into online teaching. Make sure you set some guidelines to ensure everyone is heard. You can also have the Zoom or the Skype. Setting up a Zoom or Skype lesson will show your students that their peers are only a few clicks away. They can use these platforms in their own time too. So schedule a weekly show and tell. Like this could be done by a video or it could be a simple message with a photo. It's a great strategy to keep your students connected and feeling close to each other. So peer review activities. So for example, when your students share work online, have their peers comment on it. So it sends a message of support and community. Keep the relationship with your students strong. You might be separated, but your students still need their teacher. Here are some strategies for keeping the band alive and well in online teaching. Okay, like you can upload a daily welcome to class video. You can explain the plan for the day's learning or while they are still connected. It only needs to be a minute long, but never underestimate the value of making yourself visible. Record individual student feedback. Your voice will make your feedback all the more personable and meaningful. Then you also check with students who go AWOL or absence without leave. Like for example, suddenly they are out in the virtual room because of interconnectivity. You also show to them that you care. You notice that they are important, that they are really a must in the classroom or virtual classroom. Meaning, if they go out, you are looking for them. So they will feel that they are important to you. So online teaching can make it easy for students to sleep through the cracks. If you notice that a student hasn't been participating, contacting, or directly seeing you, then I think he or she needs help. Share your own experiences. Some self-disclosure will make your students feel all the more connected to you. But of course, you have to limit talking about yourself. You can ask one of your students to share his or own experiences, like introducing them to your pets, or sharing a story from your week, or show them a hobby like cooking that keeps you busy at home. So another one is you keep
keep the tone personable, like be warm and enthusiastic when you're writing to your students, then keep things vibrant. You can send even an emoji so that they get a sense of your voice and personality. So be kind to yourself. Online teaching comes with own challenges. It is easy to feel alienated from your students' learning or to end up answering emails around the clock. Put some strategies in place to support your own well-being. This might be setting office hours for parent and student contact. You might schedule a lab pastime for the end of the school day, or creating a comfortable working from home space. Or sometimes it will feel like just can't do enough, but shake off the self-doubt. So keep being the teacher who listens, who guides, who supports, and for all you know, you are needed as much as you ever were by your students. So, online learning methods can be effectively used when you are in a virtual classroom. Sometimes learning skills or knowledge acquired through study, experience, or being taught. So, online learning is the reimagining of the educational process that maximizes available virtual classroom software to engage geographically ranged students fully. This environment brings flexibility into the process regarding scheduling, content availability, structures, allow students to access the learning material when and where they choose. So the elements of e-learning and traditional learning include similar factors such as motivation, content, stimulus, opportunities to apply education, and assessment, which may comprise of quizzes, tests, and demonstrations, or even rewards, which are traditionally grades that support the achievement of a degree or a certification or a perfect score. With online learning engagement of students, it is it is very indeed to keep them moving towards the goal. So what is then the benefit of online learning? Well, both instructors and learners benefit from e-learning opportunities. There was actually a study that was conducted in one of the schools in the US that said that the amount learning in an e-learning environment was higher than the acquired lecture-based course. Another is, even those less prepared for the materials based on pre-test scores showed that the same level of increase in learning as other students in online classes. Now, another is, not only is e-learning useful, but it is also lowering costs for students and provides greater flexibility in what, where, and how they learn. Now, for instructors, online classroom provide many unexpected benefits. It can also include, for example, associating with other instructors and access excellent resources, or connection to students who have a passion to learning on what you teach, or improved time management, which allow the person to teach while increasing the time to spend with family, on hobbies, other career objectives, and more. Also, it is anticipated that at least 50% of all classes will be delivered online. By 2021, an online teacher increases job security because we don't know the future. So, online teaching methods can be done in different forms and modalities. Number one, through presentation. Okay, presentations like in the physical classroom are one of the most common methods of online teaching. Well, this technique helps make a more significant impact on students, most of whom are visual learners, than a teacher simply relaying information out of a textbook. So most importantly, presentation allow you to incorporate visuals, like mga images, which makes it easier to deliver and comprehend complex information and data while making the lessons more engaging. Plus, you can also share your presentation with the students after the lesson for revision on studying. Oh, presentation template. So, you can have different templates in different sites in the online. So, you can also have some presentation tools like the Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, the Prezi, SlideShare. So there are actually online presentations that are more effective when delivered over video conferencing with a tool like Zoom or Google Meet. So you can also, I would like also to direct you with some sources like Just Up, like 6 ways to put an end, ugly charts and graphs. Those are actually sites for presentations. And then another one is online whiteboard. When we say online whiteboard, it used to be blackboard, but it was actually green, no? Have risen as a popular choice to virtually emulate the in-person classroom experience shared between teachers and students. They offer an infinite canvas, shape libraries to create different diagrams and charts, pre-made templates, sketching, typing, image, import options, and so on and so forth. Unlike the traditional whiteboards, they also let you digitize the content created, hence allowing you to reshare them and refer to them at a later time. So you can also collaborate with students on the same canvas in real time, which paves the way too. So how are you going to do it? Carry out an assignment, brainstorm around lesson. You can have mind mapping, do interactive exercises such as quizzes, review homework, and leave feedback. Actually, you can click on the online whiteboard for teaching. It's actually a site if you want to visit it and create your own activities for your student. Another is have live online classes. Really, it matters. Technology has made it straightforward to deliver lectures online even if you are not in the same room as the students. Now, it is but just replicating many of the elements of face-to-face interaction. So using video conferencing tools, you can connect and communicate with students across the globe to deliver lessons. Incorporating an online whiteboard, you can make the classes even more engaging. Lecture tend to put students in a passive role. Therefore, to keep students engaged throughout the class online, number one, be prepared by outlining the content of the lesson. Second, you ask during and after lesson. Leave time for the students to answer. Then you can carry out discussion around the topic and encourage students to participate actively. You can also make use of graphic organizers, images, posters, videos, visual, etc. Break down the main topic into subparts, which will allow you to deliver the lecture in smaller chunks, making it more effective in terms of keeping the students focused and engaged. So, all you have to do is set clear guidelines for online class etiquette for students to maintain. You can also have the pre-recorded video lectures. Next slide, please. The benefit of pre-recorded lectures as opposed to the live ones is that the former allows the students to learn at their own pace at any time without the presence of the teacher. It also gives them material to go over and over again during revision, assignments, and tasks. So the teacher or instructor, or the other hand, can use the videos to avoid repetitive teaching between different classes. To create effective pre-recorded lectures, how? Okay, you start with a script. Or I others does not prefer a script. Outline the talking points. You can have an outline and what should you go on each slide. Then practice as necessary unless you are confident enough to do it in one go. So rehearse what you will be saying prior to recording. Then keep it short. If the video is longer than 20 minutes, consider breaking it into smaller videos. This will not only come in handy when uploading this online, but in case you need to replace the content with new information, it will be easier to redo a few minutes video than an hour-long one. So have everything ready before recording. Make sure you are in a place devoid of distracting noises and backgrounds, and that your script and props are in place. If you are recording your screen, make sure to have closed unnecessary tabs and apps that may send your notification. Maintain good eye contact with the camera and a tone you would use in a normal one-on-one conversation. And don't forget, beautify yourself. Now, another emerging context is the flipped classroom. Flipped classroom has become one of the most popular teaching methods in education during the past few years. It entails a strategy opposite to the traditional class format. Here, the students are required to review class materials prior to the actual lesson, hence reserving actual in-class time to put what they have learned into test with teacher-guided activities such as debates, problem solving, discussions, quizzes, and others. Videos had become a core element in the flipped classroom model. While many teachers create videos of their own, some also use bids created by other teachers. So bid sharing platforms such as YouTube can be utilized to share this to your students or among your students. So some of the other effective techniques for flipped classroom include pwede siya online quizzes, help students self-regulate what they have learned and further improve their comprehension of the project. You can also have polls. Help students reflect and analyze what they have learned by polling their own choices. Or they can have infographics, increase student engagement and enhances memory. Or you can also introduce mind maps or word clouds, allow students to brainstorm around topics, areas, and develop their thinking skills. And another also is the game-based teaching. Okay, game-based learning is a popular technique used to improve students' engagement and retain attention. This approach help reduce student anxiety and increase their involvement, so especially when teaching complex concepts. So it also paves the way to weaker students that they develop competencies by interacting actively with their classmates. So an online teaching game help close the gaps in the interaction between face-to-face learning and online learning, depending on the game you select. And here are actually some tips that I want also to share to you. Like for example, you ensure that all students in the virtual classroom have access to the same set of data. And then you can share your screen or communicate to them, to your audience, using a video conferencing tool. And then use the chat option to take down concerns and questions of students and clarify, and you can answer them live. You can also allow students to reflect their answer and discuss them with other group members by breaking down the game into subsequent periods. So, allow students to carry out discussion using chat platforms such as pwede WhatsApp, Skype. There is an emerging Slack, the Facebook, the Zoom, but which is very popular with breakout rooms, and etc. So, in other words, there are a lot of ways to do online teaching. Now, how about having a class blog? A blog can be a great place for students to share what they have learned in the form of in-depth articles. Students can work on blog posts individually or in groups. Well, it is a great strategy to improve students' research skills and encourage them to explore self-learning. The teacher can also use the blog as a platform to share learning. So the teacher can use the blog as platform to share learning materials for the lessons. You can also have the live chatting. It is another great way to replicate the real-time discussions that take place in the classroom, like platforms such as, have you heard about Slack, WhatsApp, very familiar, Facebook, Messenger, Skype. So allow students and teachers to communicate and brainstorm around lessons. The chat itself will provide the students with information for revising before exams or before submission of a task or an assignment. So make sure to set clear guidelines to ensure that all students get an equal chance to communicate their ideas and pose their questions. And the discussion boards and forums. These tools provide students the space to share what they have learned or what they have to know more about with others in the classroom, including the teacher. You can maintain different discussion boards for individual lesson topics, or it could be a very small note, so it will be more organized. You can create an easily with an online visual workspace like Creately. You click that one, you type Creately, it will lead you to a certain app and share it with all students with one public edit link, giving everyone quick access. You can also create separate channels like Facebook groups or WhatsApp group or any other form of forum discussion. So there are a lot of things to do in the online delivery or in the online pedagogy of teaching. Now let's move to blended learning. Well, this is very common again, but I would be sharing to you some insights about this. Now, we have the technology has controlled almost all aspects of our life. What was once believed to be the realm of science fiction is becoming the new normal. The use of technology in education has led to the rise of a new approach known as blended learning. Although the idea has been around since late 1990s, the increasing penetration of the internet and mobile devices has helped make this educational approach much more achievable and efficient. Next slide, please. In simple terms, blended learning is the use of online and digital techniques. Forward, please, the slide. And enhance traditional teaching methods. Thank you. It does not aim to replace teachers or brick and mortar schools. Instead, it is objective to complement them. In the case of blended learning, I think around 30% to 79% based on a certain research that the content is developed through digital means, while the rest is provided through offline means such as print textbooks or classroom teaching. So, why blended learning is the future of education? That is an article. Now, blended learning is more beneficial for students than traditional approaches to education. Research shows that students actually in abroad or in the international arena who were provided blended learning opportunities perform better than those who use the traditional face-to-face method. And besides, the current generations of students feel more comfortable with blended learning. So, a recent study revealed that students feel they learn more effectively using blended methods compared to purely face-to-face and even than online learning. So there are actually some techniques or features of blended learning that make it so effective. Like number one, personalized learning. Okay. Personalized learning is when blended learning, like education, can be modified to suit the specific needs of every student. Teachers are provided the tools to understand the learning behaviors, interests, strengths, and weaknesses, and the more of each student. So this help create personalized learning paths, while teachers are providing personal support as and when needed. Another is higher engagement. So blended learning allows the inclusion of interactive and gaming elements in learning. And it is no secret that almost all students today would rather learn through videos and games rather than merely text-based books or even e-books. Moreover, micro-learning becomes a reality. So since the process of providing information is small, digestible nuggets is easy. So this means higher engagement and retention levels. These features are especially helpful for students. Like for example, for those students who have disabilities. Now, disruptive behaviors. So other features such as text-to-speech available via educational technology or solutions can make education much more accessible. Another is blended learning provides instant feedback. Students can get instant feedback, detailed feedback with blended learning. This helps not only students but also the teachers, because students can analyze where they need to put in more effort, while teachers can fine-tune their teaching techniques and styles. With this EdTech solution, assessments can be customized and administered easily, so providing valuable data for much more than simply grading students. Another is it is flexible in nature or flexible learning. With a blended approach, students can access a wide range of resources, including online videos or ebooks or anytime at any place. So as long as they have a device and internet, both internal and external resource links and libraries can be integrated when learning is delivered through digital means. This is also allowing students to take advantage of what Google calls micro moments. Students can learn while waiting for the bus, while commuting, or before going to sleep. In addition, the use of technology in learning has proven to be the best course of action for Gen Z students, most especially now, or more so that they are in their respective houses. So a 2018 study found that Gen Z students respond better to learning through videos rather than textbooks. So remember that. Now another, implementing blended learning. So how do you implement it? There are actually different models. As flipping classroom becomes more common, many educational institutions will have trouble implementing a blended approach. Some of the basic aspects to consider during implementation are: number one, you should choose the right learning model. The first step to implement a blended learning is to choose the learning model that best suited for you and to your students. There are many blended learning models, each with its own benefits. The different blended learning models include the following, like face-to-face driver model, rotation model, flex model, online lab model, self-blend model. Okay, what is that face-to-face driver model, which is very impossible right now? From the word alone, face-to-face, this model is closest to the traditional classroom. Here, only certain students in a classroom are provided blended learning. In this model, technology is generally used to help students students who are struggling. This is more or less tutorial, extended virtual tutorial to your students who have difficulties understanding the concept of your lessons. Another is the rotation model. In the rotation model, students move between face-to-face teaching and online learning, which is very impossible as well. No? This is generally used before in the elementary schools. Another is flex model. Here, learning is mainly online. The connection is still a must and self-guided. However, teachers are present on site. So in case any help is needed, so that is what we call flex model or online lab model. In this model, learning is simply online, but students are required to travel to a physical laboratory for the classes, which is still not allowed nowadays. Self-blend model generally is actually very applicable to high school students. This is a model that students are offered to chances to learn beyond what is taught in the classroom with the help of online tools. Okay. Well, I am quite excited because this lecture that I had are more of online. How about offline? How do we teach in the offline context? We can start with a positive attitude, as it is in the lens through which we can look at all offline instruction. If you focus on all the things that are barriers, then you might become too discouraged to even consider the opportunities of learning offline. Next slide, please. Forward. Take a handful of rocks, for example. What are you? Are always, you can use them, okay? This handful of rocks. You might use them as paperweights. You might use them as stoppers. You can even use them as counting tools. Or you can use these rocks as trail markers or characters in a story. But if you only think of them as rocks, they will always only be rocks. Well, what I'm trying to say is that let us explore the context of offline teaching. It might be difficult at the very beginning, and you know it is really difficult, but there is no harm in trying. Forward, please. Now, how do we teach without internet alliance? Okay. What do you do when online is just not an option in real time? Well, there are offline options and considerations. We have what we call record online sessions. We have actually the Google Offline, which is being offered to us by the Google platform that you can access it even if you are not connected to the net. Then we have also some phone apps, or the easiest one, you can distribute learning packets or module. Okay, next please. There are actually apps and tools that works offline. And these are actually the 5 offline tools that you can use even if you have no internet. The first one is Canary Learning. Canary Learning is an application that can be accessed even if you are offline. What is that Canary Learning? Grading and checking assignments is one of the most important functions of the educators. It is one thing that occupies most of our time. So teachers use a lot of web tools to make their work efficient. However, internet remains the basic necessity for the tools. Well, Canary Learning is one tool that can help educators without internet. It is one of the most used grading tools. The tool caters to the educators' all grading needs, making work efficient. Well, if you have your iPad version supporting full offline functionality, Teacher can grade even without a network connection. Everything synchronizes transparently when network coverage returns. So see how wonderful the Canary learning is. All push-based capabilities are also fully platform, cross-platform. So edits to lessons, schedule of assignments on laptops or iPads are immediately reflected on all student devices, regardless of device type, once the user is online. So automatically, what you did offline will be reflected in the online. So there is no need to manually sync. Press a button or remember to save to your computer or to a cloud drive. That's how wonderful Canary learning is. Another one is the Pocket. This too is useful for the educators who are always reading to make the perfect lesson resource. So what makes Pocket useful is that while you browse the internet and find an article you want to read later, you can easily save the resource and access it when you need to without depending on the availability of the internet. So simply press the Pocket Web extension and it syncs to all your devices that have the Pocket app. It is perfect to use Pocket when you come across an article through other apps that you don't have to read immediately but want to save for later reading. So it is your go-to resource bucket for you to read whenever and wherever. So open the Pocket app and read offline content at your own leisure. Okay. Another one that I would like to introduce to you is the Evernote. If you still haven't started with this tool, for sure others had already started, now is the time. Evernote is a great cloud syncing, note-taking app. You can use Evernote for everything from creating grocery lists and to-do items, recorded voice notes, and saving images and documents to refer to later. So it has added features such as annotation, what else? Group sharing, and even chats. And its core is it is still all about notes and being able to access and edit these notes when you are offline. So these are premium features that include larger storage. However, the free version does the job pretty amazingly. So there is a free version for that, Evernote. What else? Okay, another one, iBooks. This bookstore is loved by all iOS users. The iBooks library is perfect for storing PDFs, for offline reading. It also has the following features. Choose from the 8 attractive fonts and 4 easy-to-read page colors. You can add bookmarks and notes and highlight your favorite passages. You can even find a word, character, or phrase anywhere in your book with built-in search. And you can also turn on Auto Night theme to make reading more comfortable on your eyes during nighttime. So that's the beauty of the iBooks. But the last that I would like to introduce is the offline version of Khan Academy, and it is called Kalite. Kalite is actually the offline version of Khan Academy, offering high-quality education by bringing the online learning accessible to the offline user. Kalite is an open source software that runs on the local server. Users can watch Khan Academy videos and do exercises as well as track students' progress. Everything without internet connectivity. So, there you are. You have all the offline apps so that nothing comes in between you and your work. You can still do offline teaching. Okay, now, May I know, what are then the other tools or other ways? Is there another way of offline delivery of teaching? I would like to introduce this one. The 6 C's of offline learning at home. Okay, you can introduce to your students the can-do, content, culture, create, choice, and community. This is actually introduced by Allen and Sketon in 2020. Okay, so what do we do with this 6 C's of offline learning? Okay, when we say can do, of course, this is an approach online wherein the students need content and at the same time instruction with the lens of what your students and families can do. Okay, what does it mean? Like what is being available in your respective homes, you relate the task of the content of the subject to what is the home-based available materials, equipments, events, or whatsoever. That's the context of can do. How about the content? For the content, it connects your content to something they are already familiar. Like students need content to use language for authentic purposes. We have to be creative to think about how to get students to understand content when we are not physically there with them. So for example, let's say you want to teach your students about ecosystems and your students live in a rural community. So you ask them to go to a patch of grass and get really close. Then ask them to draw everything they see, such as soil, insects, weeds, stones, what else, flowers, fallen twigs, and branches, so that you can teach them the content. Think about the context most of your students may be familiar with. So then, try to have students find the contents that's already in their lives. So that is the letter, that is content. How about culture? You are going to encourage families to connect their cultures to the contents. Example, students' cultural heritage holds the greatest potential for connection to your content. Let's return to the ecosystem lesson. You could have your students ask their family to tell them about an animal from their home country. Even if they are not from that country or place, maybe they are from that certain city, neighborhood, or town. So first, have the student draw the animal. Okay, then have them draw all that things in the environment which that familiar animal needs to survive. Okay, if possible, you might even have the family help label everything in the picture in their home language. The important thing about culture is to have the family contribute from the backgrounds and fans of knowledge. In this way, we want to partner with families, validate their experiences, and empower them to participate in the child's learning. So it's like they are going to supplement additional inputs to the output of the students. Okay, that is the letter C, culture. How about create? Similar to when students are in a physical school, they learn content and develop language most when students actively engage with the standards. So they design experiences when students are creating with content and using language. This means we have to design learning that requires students to do something with content and language. Especially, we are not there to teach them. So in the previous example, we have students draw, but we could also have students pantomime all the non-living and living things in an ecosystem as a form of active engagement. So they are going to act like dogs, they are going to act like the carabao, or any living or non-living things that they could pantomime. So in other words, that is the C, create. Another C is the choice. Okay. Choice allow for students' choice in the content, product, and process. Closely linked to creating in student choice. It is similar as almost to creating. Again, returning to the ecosystem example, you could provide a labeled picture of a patch of grass. Okay. In the instruction, let the students choose a small plot of land. It's his choice. It does not have to be a patch of grass. Students can choose a potted plant. Okay, uso ba karon ang plantita o plantito? The grassy area next to a bus stop or even a park path. The important thing is to provide students with as much freedom to choose as possible. So, this autonomy will garner more students' engagement. Okay. Then we have the last C, community. It's actually fostering a sense of community and is still possible offline, but it will unfortunately move at the pace of meal service. Returning to the ecosystem drawings, I could have my students create an animal drawing without the labels. Each student could mail that drawing sealed in an envelope you provided students in their package. You then could send each student a drawing from one of their classmates. Or students will now have a label, will have to label all the non-living and living items on their friends' drawings. They would send these labeled drawings back to you, and then you would send it back to the original student. These examples show how you can intentionally design learning experiences where students can build each other's ideas and interacting asynchronously. It does not matter the pace at which you build a sense of community, but what matters most is students realizing that they are part of a learning engagement. So, while they are learning in separate locations but working with classmates' products, they realize that they are not learning alone. Students still have you. So, students who do not have access to technology still have access to the most important aspect of school. And who are these people? You, their loving teachers. You and I determine the experience students have as they learn from home. With this framework and our teachers' imagination, we can have a design of enriching activities and opportunities because we focus on what can be done rather than become paralyzed by what we cannot control. We cannot control the internet connectivity. Though these principles are for teachers who used to support students without access to technology, when we step back, we see that these principles are just things we do to make learning student-centered wherever they and we are. You might use the 6 C's now in the distance learning context and then bring them back to influence you in personal note of instruction when hopefully the schools reopen. By the way, I would like to inform you that last month, the Google released a blog on how students can continue using Chromebooks or G Suite for education, even if they don't have internet. So, it's amazing. The IT team of Google set up online access on devices for everyone, but they would need online access to go through the process. So first, they have to upload
they have to download the app. Okay, so it's really amazing. But I am not yet finished. There is another model. Next, please. Okay, there is what we call no internet remote learning activity. Very big 10. Okay, what can you do? You can advise your students. Like, they read. Okay, they can teach someone. They can start a passion project.
But the most important
Oh,
thing
like
is the number 10.
they are going to start planting or cooking.
Because during
Learn a
remote
skill.
learning, you teach students
Or they can
to
ask
optimize
someone
their bodies,
question.
their
It's an
brains,
inquiry
to be
based.
better learners.
And then they
That's
can
the
make
beauty of
something
remote
that they
learning
are that you can be
activities.
proud of,
There is
or they
peace,
can be proud
there
of
is
themselves.
silence in
Or they can
learning.
recall what
Next,
they've
please.
learned. They can even have the
There is
reflection
another one.
or
The non-screen activities
exercise.
you can do at home.
But the most important thing is the number
There
10.
are
Be
actually
still.
25
Relax lang.
ideas.
Because
So,
during remote
this is
learning,
actually
you
provided
teach
by
students to
Kidbug.
optimize their
Well,
bodies,
some of the
their
activities
brains
are fun,
to be
for
better
fun. Some
learners.
activities
That's
are
the
for
beauty of
art's
remote
sake.
learning
Some
activities.
are for
There is peace,
just
there is
enjoyment,
silence
or
in learning.
probably a
Next,
releasing of
please.
tension or stress. So it could help you.
Oops, there is another one.
Next slide,
The
please.
non-screen activities you can do at home. So many. There are actually 25 ideas. So this is actually provided by Kubel. Well, some of the activities are fun, for fun. Some activities are for art's sake. Some activities are for just enjoyment or probably a releasing of tension or stress. So it could help you. Okay, next slide, please.
How are you, teachers? How are you?
What's interesting is that
Can I hear
as
your
learning is
voices?
becoming more virtual, the virtual activities are actually becoming more physical. One might say virtual and physical are meeting in the middle, according to Anon. Teacher in the new normal. Well, I'm excited about this because I want to know, how are you, teachers? How are you? Can I hear some voices?
Hi, Ma'am Ruby. We're good.
Ay, nice to know.
Hi,
You know,
hello
in the new normal setting, we should not forget the most important persona in this struggle, in this challenge, are actually the teachers. We should say, how are you, teachers? From preparation of lesson plans to conducting the lessons and the handling out of assignments, teachers have to make sure that the quality of learning remains even with the absence of face-to-face interaction. That's amazing. How to keep quality in my teaching and learning. And this is not face-to-face. This is virtual. How would I do that? Okay, let's try to find out a different preparation. Well, I have talked to one of my friends who is actually a teacher and at the same time a former TV reporter. I will not mention his name. He teaches various communication subjects, specifically TV production, journalism, principles, visual journalism, and multimedia performance, and probably news production in 4 different universities because he is actually an anchor and he is just a part-time teacher. Okay, in 4 universities. So before the pandemic, he prepared his lessons a few days or weeks before they are actually delivered to his students. But this time around, his lead time had to be longer. So according to him, I need to prepare all and finish all the modules for the entire semester before the classes get started. Then another friend of mine said, who also agrees, that she had to pass hurdles upon hurdles to be able to conduct her classes. Not only to keep things in order, but also to ensure learning among her students. So according to her,
Preparing lessons during this pandemic is way more challenging than ever, since the concern is not just limited to making sure that learning will be transferred to the learners, but also making sure that this is actually delivered to them. So, another teacher added, who is a teacher in alternative learning system, a mode of education. According to him, the planning part is complex. Now, since classes are online, my audiovisual materials, camera, and microphone need to be tested at least 2 days before my actual class. Before, it was a day before because I just need to prepare my visual aid. So it's more difficult because teaching preparation, that challenge is actually ensuring the transfer of learning. Another challenge is challenging conduct of classes. Well, according to my friend who is a teacher at the same time a TV reporter, he used to talking in front of the camera. And while he doesn't expect the camera to talk back to him, he knows that his messages gets across because people react to what he says on those platforms. That's not necessarily the case of online classes. According to him, students are not required to open their camera because it consumes bigger bandwidth. Okay? With this, I am not sure if I am really talking to my students or I am just doing my monologue during class discussions. So sad. So students will be given modules in lieu of virtual meetings. So meaning, you have students with different learning modalities. So students are not required to open their camera. So classes for public schools had actually commenced last October 5, right? Which coincides with World Teachers' Day. But even before, my friend who is already conducting a dry run of her online lesson, particularly for her grade 10 students in order to identify issues that have to be addressed, like probably many teachers like her, describe this impersonal method of teaching as quite challenging. Now, another context is evaluating students' learning. It's common for teachers to give out seat works and quizzes inside the classroom. Since there's practically no classroom to speak, there's no classroom of this school year, teachers had to make adjustments on how to ensure that their students have indeed learned or would learn their lessons. I am very lenient in terms of deadlines. I give ample time for my students to finish the required output, but we strictly follow protocols on late submission. They get deductions if they submit late. So even before the opening of classes, your learners must have been engaged in different online projects. So they struggled at first. As time went by, they were able to establish an organized system, like by using FB or Messenger, which are actually accessible even without internet data or compared to other educational applications available nowadays, which require internet access. So it's like keeping an entire class attentive has always been a challenge for the teacher, and at the same time, the assessment context is quite difficult because it is virtual. Okay? Next is on the managing virtual classroom behavior. Like my friend and other comrade of mine said, I engage them in discussions. Sometimes I do request to open their cameras, usually at the end of the meeting, just to make sure that they are paying attention. Aside from that, their outputs like reflections, whether they have learned something or not. So I asked reflections. It's one way of managing virtual classroom instructions. So, meanwhile, my students will have to check in staying silent. Even I really wonder some of my students who used to be talkative and yet they are not talking. Something is wrong there might be something so you have to check, you have to communicate with them. So it's like very difficult. You have to keep an entire class attentive. As always, it has been a challenge because you don't know if they are really listening, they are into it, are they sleeping, are they eating, are they still there? So you don't know. It's very difficult managing virtual classroom behavior. So the next one is accommodating students. Now, generally, teachers are expected to accommodate students, especially now that we are in the pandemic. The students need someone to listen. So similarly, professors should be willing to accommodate for students' concern. For the classes in which this is possible, they should check on individual students. You try to get to know them and their situation. This will allow you for a relationship that ensures both sides are clear about expectations and realities. So if one student is particularly struggling outside of the class, the professor will know how to set a standard for that particular student. This has always been a helpful way to run a classroom, but now it's imperative. If it's not possible to reach out to every student, teachers should make it clear that everyone is encouraged to reach out with any of their concerns or roadblocks. Although this won't be as lenient as back in other cases, like when there was still no COVID, but it's likely there will be some patients with an overdue assignments. Like for example, if your deadline is first week of November, then you can adjust it to second week of November or the most third week of November. So step up and you try to communicate to your students, and you tell them as well that they can email you, they can message you if they are really struggling. Because sometimes it pays to respond, it pays to be kind to our students. Neither students or nor teachers can expect anything from the other if they are not willing to ask of themselves. Okay? And the last one is more of connecting issues. Well, that is beyond our control. That is internet connectivity. That is an internet issue. The teacher themselves are saying that having good internet connectivity is a major requirement or factor in the success of the delivery of their lessons. Thus, in the other side of the coin, if you have a poor internet, that means to say that you are unsuccessful in the delivery of your lessons. Now remember, not all families can actually afford the expenses of securing a stable internet connection. The internet stability in our country is really challenging, I should say. Aside from the fact that the teacher's presence in the process of learning is actually compromised. What is worse is that when teachers cannot connect online, so what will happen? Teaching and learning process will be postponed. Teachers' presence affects the learning of the students according to the connectivity issues. That is why some fluctuating internet connection matters a lot, and it's really bothering. And sometimes there are unnecessary background noises, like for example, for example, kay maningog ang mga iro, mag-aw-aw. So, those are actually challenges that we are facing online. So, next slide, please. I hope you'll not get tired. A teacher away from the traditional classroom. What you are going to do? You are not in the four corners of your classroom. Well, you are at home. So, how are you going to set up your day? So first, plan your day with an in-home schedule. When you have to go to school before, you followed a daily schedule. You may have woke up early at the same time every day, or started your homework or a certain time before and after dinner. So now, instead of having a clear-cut routine defined by when you leave your house, if you are leaving, if you will do something important outside, and when you get home, you spend every day at home. That is the most important thing, and you plan out what you will do for the whole day. So planning your day with an in-home schedule to follow will provide you with a sense of focus, because you know what you are going to do, instead of feeling like you're on a vacation with empty days ahead of you. Get up and at the same time take a regular lunch break and form a routine that works for you. So following diligently will make an e-learning easier to handle. Another, have you designated a work area already? Now it's tempting to grab your laptop and start working on your next lesson or somewhat requirements from the comfort of your bed. Although it's fun to struggle up in your pajamas and never leave the comfort of your warm blankets, but it doesn't help your mind shift into study mode. Defining a work area in your home or apartment or house or boarding house is recommended by many for working from home, because it actually set definite application to what you are going to do while you are on a work from home schedule. You might have a small desk in your bedroom or to use, or you are working at your kitchen table. That would be okay. Just make sure that you have a designated space wherein you can use it as a working table for the use of your school tasks. So after you finish your classes for the day, then that's the time that you can relax or have fun elsewhere in your home away from the workspace. Okay? So another is, remember to communicate. You might feel nervous about taking online courses or classes because you feel alone. Not only students can feel that, even teachers. But there are always ways to keep in touch with teachers, with fellow friends, fellow teachers and friends. Why don't you email your friends or email your co-teacher and create an online forum, specifically like talking about, not necessarily about your lessons, probably mga personal or important events in your life. So have a chain of relationship by way of connecting to your fellow teachers or workers or friends. So you could even send a text, just a text away, or it's one way of helping and supporting each other. Then another one is arrange virtual study groups or discussion groups. Like for example, you can you are teaching this subject English 101, and then you are going to connect to another teaching subject. Then you can have sharing of the lessons, the techniques on how he is or she is going to deliver it, mga some instructional components, topics like that. So you create a virtual groupings already. And then you also, don't forget, keep your motivation in mind. It's easy to push yourself to learn something when you are actually out of the classroom or out of the campus. Because when you are home, there are actually a lot of temptations, like you just want to sleep, to lie down, to eat, watch TV, and probably just don't do anything. So those are actually temptations. So you might struggle as well while you are staying. You are not motivated and you just look at the school papers or the school work. So, you have to motivate yourself, because it is the best way to focus your school work and beat at the same time some deadlines. And why don't you have a photo board to hang above your workspace with images like, for example, during a birthday party or the success of your career, so that you will be inspired and it can push you to continue your teaching learning context. Now, if you can remember what drives you to really give out your best in the teaching learning process, then you can also place that. It could be a quotation that you are really fond of. So why don't you post it so that you can be inspired each and every day? So another is be kind to yourself. This is the most important thing than ever. This may be the first time you'd ever tried an online class, which makes a full schedule slightly overwhelming. Because we are not only attending our class, we have some meetings, probably organizational meetings, we have deadlines of some probably requirements from the HR, from your department, and all. Be kind to yourself as you learn how to work best from home. Take your time to find out motivation, work in a designated area, and participate in some online discussion. These tips are actually e-learning that can teach you how to succeed while you are in this work from home context. Okay, next slide, please. You posted an online question and answer discussion forum, or you have sent next slide, please. You hold online, it seems that you are holding. So there are actually essential principles and practices in the new normal for a teacher. Like for example, show up to the class. What does it mean? Show up to class. Okay, you think as if you are in the school, you are getting dressed, you prepared, you respond to question, you posted an online question and answer discussion forum, or you have sent it through by email. You hold online, it seems that you are holding an offline office hours, then you feel that this is an appointment. So you can post a quick video to clarify misconceptions about a class topic. You can even grade and return students' work. You can even talk with your students. That is show up to class. When we say be yourself, you infuse yourself, your characteristics. You convey your support. Be human. Sometimes the inherent distance between the professor and the student in an online class infects your written and probably your oral communication. But you know, it is also important that you have to really say it, not only have actions. Okay, another is put yourself in their shoes. Okay, this is very important. This is empathy. Your online students aren't physically near to you or other students when they're in class. So they can't turn to a neighbor because they are not allowed to go out. So that leads to a strong sense of isolation and creates a need for support. So different from the kind you offer when you teach in person. So in a physical classroom, you can pick up on nonverbal cues. But here, the best thing is to really reach out. You put yourself into their shoes, into their situation. Yet you want to support them just as you would in a classroom. Just imagine that they are your students. You are actually their second parents. So get outside your head, your own head. When you are in the online class, make sense and everything is clear. It should be clear and let everybody envision that this is me, this is your second parent, and you can always count on me. That's the context. Okay. Organize teaching content intuitively. Navigate your teaching as if you were new to online learning in general. It is clear when things are found, note times, when it's not immediately evident what a student should do. So the need to click to get to more information might not be clear to them. So remember, online students can generally ask a quick question in real time. So you think about how the use of menus, modules, folders, other organizing structures helps on hinder students' progress through this type of learning. Now, students should be able to access content, assessments, and learning activities without constantly clicking more and more links. And online teaching should not be one giant website of endless scrolling. And then visual appearance. Need to give serious thought to the way your online teaching look. When teaching about the visuals of an online class, look to your favorite websites. Study the layouts of books, magazines that you enjoy. Why not apply this philosophy to an online class? You don't have to be a graphic designer to enhance course appearance. A little attention to the presentation goes a long way. Now break up long chunks of text with subheads and space between paragraphs. So embed relevant images, include thumbnails, videos, and other created or sourced from YouTube, although it is really taxing on your part. So explain your expectation. So what do you expect? Write down the direction as if you were having a conversation with a student so that they don't read like a textbook. Create an informal 2-minute explainer video to flesh out some details of the assignment. You can even provide rubric or share an example of a student work that earned top marks. There's no harm in sharing anyway. Maybe even share an example of a mediocre work so students can compare the two. Then another one is scaffold learning activities. Let's say you want students to record a video presentation of the research topic. So it's hard enough to give a good presentation without the video recording element. So help your online students gain experience with the technology before they have to use it for a high-stake project. Next slide, please. As part of an orientation module, so during few days, next slide please, after that, ask students to send you a message using LMS messaging or email system so that they know how to do this later in class. If they have questions for you, ask them to answer a question about syllabus or to list down 2 goals for their learning in the course. Reply with short personal greetings so they know you receive the message and are available for help. So during few days, ask students to upload PDF file of their handwritten work or solving the first step of a problem. So this exercise will help them learn how to turn a photo on their mobile device into a PDF file or to submit it as an assignment in the LMS. So it's a good way to correct any missteps early on. So at the beginning of the first module, I know that you are doing this one. Ask your student use one of the many free mind mapping tools available on the web to create a concept map of what they already know about the course topic. Then at the end of each module, assign students to create a summary concept map to help them make sense of each topic. You can even provide examples like source existing videos that put another spin on a particular topic or record a short guest lecture video to let your students hear from another teacher. So structure ways for students to explain new information to one another. As novice learners, they may come up with an example of illustrations that make more sense to their peers that your explanations do. So you can also make class an inviting, pleasant place to be. Use plenty of visuals, media, interactive tools, and learning activities. Streamline lecture organization and navigation. Organize the furniture in the room, so to speak, to create maximum flow. The proprietary nature of most online lecture makes it difficult for offer open examples of what I mean by that modern mythology of Greek culture, example. So convey positivity and optimism that students can succeed. And then demonstrate compassion. Do not forget and caring for your busy online learners. Respect their time and engagement by being present and engaged. And commit to continuous improvement. So participate in workshops, seminars, Like there will be trainings offered by your school related to teaching and learning, or other topics that is somewhat would add up to your continuing professional education. So join book discussion. You can even subscribe to teaching related newsletter, or you can even explore best practices presented in the teaching online. And by the way, I would like to inform you, you can also join a community of practice. It is actually an online search engine whereby you can participate. So if you are a science teacher, a mathematics teacher, then you can find the community online practice of your specialization and then join. That's also one way of. And then the next step is for you to meet other people and build relationships, not only within the locality but as well as national and globally. Okay, so next slide please. What are the reflections in the new normal? So, Maslow before Bloom. That's the new battle cry in education. So this pandemic is a litmus test for schools. A lot of schools rapidly transitioned to online learning due to lockdowns that were enforced in a matter of days. Schools didn't have much time to prepare and were caught in the moment as schools and teachers went back to their drawing boards to plan out how learning should continue despite the school closures. What was forgotten or considered late was the well-being of students and teachers who are now at home learning on their own. The pandemic has brought anxiety to families. It separated parents who are essential workers for their children because of the fear of bringing the virus home. Some students are also grieving for the family or friends lost due to the pandemic. Some parents might not have even enough money to buy food and other necessities for daily living, which the kids see and witness at home. So moreover, the sense of isolation from classmates and teachers has disrupted the normalcy of schooling. With this heavily charged situation, it's really hard to imagine and ensure that the students at home, that the teachers at home are still okay and still ready to go for learning. Nothing will enter and stick into the minds if we are hungry, we are worried, we are anxious, we are stressed. So as society in the new normal, we need to ensure that the basic physical, social, emotional, and psychological needs of students are met before they can even start learning. Reach out, check them, check with their parents and see what help their children might need. School definitely need more guidance counselors, I tell you, or life coaches to help students and teachers navigate their emotions and thoughts. More importantly, give students the time to adjust to the new ways of learning. Build relationship with them that will spell success in your teaching. Another is equitable access matters more than ever. The pandemic has greatly highlighted the digital divide between the hubs and the have-nots, which we had been experiencing before this unfortunate episode of our lives. Now more than ever, we realize that those who have access to a learning device and the internet are the ones who will greatly benefit for the online learning programs that schools are working on. So, if we know that there are families and students who can have a decent access to these digital tools and devices, what should we do then? even if they have devices at home, what if they also need to share the one learning devices with their other siblings who also need to study and catch up with the requirements of their class? The new normal should advocate more equitable access to online learning. Well, it goes a long way. If a school chooses to go online, then the school leaders must have a way to ensure that no students is left behind from learning because of a preference to one mode of learning. So can schools explore loaning device for students and teachers use at home? Can schools work local government units in acquiring devices for loan to students and teachers? Or if schools and parents can provide learning devices and connection to the internet, whose social and moral responsibility is this? On another side of the note, why do we wait for a pandemic to happen and then seriously strive for equitable access? With or without pandemic, equitable access should always be a goal in this context of learning. Well, multiple pathways of learning delivery would be considered in an emergency learning continuity plan. So responding to the pandemic's effect on schooling, well, other school ensures that all students with or without access in the internet should continue to learn even if they are at home. So there are actually different modalities that had been adopted by schools. But given the reality or even schools in terms of digital divide, the best thing to do is to provide multiple pathways to education continuity, taking into consideration the context of every student, teacher, and family. Aside from online learning, there are learning packets that can be used, which is reminiscent of the correspondence mode of distance education way back years ago. Yes, there are broadcast stations in regions or localities that can be used to air radio or TV programs on lessons being learned in class. With these varying approaches to delivering learning, educators and school leaders should also be open to rethinking the purpose of assessment and grades. Are quizzes or long tests the best way to authentically access students' learning in an online learning environment? Should we still grade them according to our face-to-face learning standards? The basic idea here is, while we aim for multiple pathways to learning or instruction, assessments and maybe even the grading systems will have to be reviewed to serve the main goal at this point of the pandemic. And then, better funding, stronger support, and more relevant professional development for teachers need to be prioritized. A lot had been expected from teachers at this time of the pandemic. Teachers were expected to become designers of online learning overnight, curate online resources and learn tech tools for their online classes, and redesign assessment that are valid for the rapid shift in education. Teachers continue to work from home while taking care of their own children, their own family. Teachers check in with their students to ask them how they are and to provide support and assurance that things will be better. In short, teachers are actually frontliners too. They continue to give a sense of normalcy for students and support for parents who are now experiencing firsthand how the life of a teacher look like with all of these expectations. Teachers deserve to be prepared and given all necessary funding, support, and professional development to reach the society's demand and expectation. Wow, very big demand. So, another is sound pedagogy thrives the use of online tools and resources. So there are a lot of influx of available resources online. In fact, the study pointed out how tech tools were not used effectively because the teachers were not trained to properly and meaningfully integrate the tech tools in 21st century pedagogy. With these results from the study, schools should ensure that teachers do not just simply transfer or translate what they do move inside the classroom into their online classroom. There are certain dynamics that work well in the face-to-face but do not work in the online. So for example, the classic example of long lectures or teacher-driven discussions that usually happen in the classroom may not be translated well in online learning. So, in this new normal setup, teachers should transform how to teach online. Since online tools and resources present numerous affordances that teachers and students can take advantage of. So, review purposes of assessment and grades in terms of emergencies. Okay, at this point of the pandemic, assessment and grades continue to be controversial topics among school leaders and other members of the school community. Well, the question generally revolved around the relevance and implication of assessing and grading students while the global crisis continues to put security, safety, and health of everyone, especially the students, in danger. So transitioning to remote learning also made it more challenging for teachers to gauge the students' understanding of their lesson. Grabe, no? So for the new normal in education, assessment and grades should be reviewed and reimagined so that they continue to be relevant to students. My goodness. So forge stronger school community and external partnerships. So the pandemic has highlighted the big gap among schools in terms of equity, access, and support for teachers, students, and education in general. So some schools quickly respond to the school closures because they had better access to digital technologies, and more teachers are trained and equipped with skills needed in teaching with technology. But on the other hand, some schools have problems related with access and readiness. So we are not of the same context. No, there are schools that have no problem in internet capability and capacity, while other schools are struggling. So there are a lot of problems to face in this online setup, in this new normal setup. So privacy, safety, security, and digital well-being are top priorities. So when school transition to remote learnings, a big number of technological and educational enterprises took steps to help connect teachers and students. So in the new normal, as students get exposed more often than the internet, teachers should always consider students' privacy, safety, and security. Flexibility, adaptability, and empathy are essential skills nowadays in order for you to really navigate the context of new normal. Now, what I'm trying to impose now are several sources. Jean, can you go back to the last slide prior to that? So that the teacher will know what are the sources that they can access. A system with strong offline functionality. Prior to that, Jean.
Yes, ma'am. For digital learning, ma'am.
Just go back for the previous slide. Prior to that slide, please. Prior to that. Prior to that. Hello, Jean. Kindly go back to the previous slide. Prior to the listing.
Yes, ma'am. For digital learning, ma'am.
Just go back for the previous slide so that I can tell the teachers after this reflection prior to that. Normal.
Okay.
Prior to that. Actually, there are available online support for teachers that they can access. Please forward the slides. Prior to the listing. After this slide, the next. Okay. There are actually resources
In the new
that
normal.
can provide psychosocial support. Please do not. That one, after this reflection in the new normal.
Okay.
That one. Actually, there are available online support for teachers that they can access. Please forward the slides. Play anonymous if you want. For after this, next slide. After this slide, the next. Okay. There are actually resources that can provide psychosocial support. Please do not. You can
Excuse
visit
me,
this
Jean.
one if you want.
Please
The
go back.
easiest is the Schoology because this
That
is
one.
very easy in terms of
There
its
are
features
actually
and
these
platform. So
sites
you can
wherein you
use
can
this
click
one
and you can
as
also
one way of
communicate.
communicating your
You can
students
play
by means of
anonymous if you
lessons
want
and
for
assignments.
psychosocial
And you
support.
try also
Next
to check
slide.
other digital learning management system.
So these are actually the different digital learning management system. You can visit this one if you want. The easiest is the Schoology because this is very easy in terms of its features and platform. So you can use this one as one way of communicating your students by means of lessons and assignments.
For basic
And you try
PPTs, you
also
can have the
to
NESA
check
education.
other digital learning management system.
Next, please.
Forward, please.
We have also systems with strong offline
We have also system built
so you
for
can
use
download
on
it.
basic
No need
mobile
for you to
phones.
have
All you have to do
online
is just download the
connectivity.
apps.
Another.
And then eventually, if that's already in your mobile phone, then you can start using it. Like for
we have also
example,
the
if you
MOOC.
want to revise and learning
Sige, Jean,
materials
forward
for
na
basic
nagdali ka,
feature
Jean, kay
phones, you
12
can
na
have
di
the
ay.
ENISA
Sorry,
education.
wala ko na pandayan ang oras.
Okay.
We have also self-directed learning
Next,
content.
please.
Actually,
We have also
Discovery
systems with
Education, it
strong
is a free
offline
educational
functionality,
resource
so
and
you can
lessons
download
about
it. No need for you
viruses
to
and
have
outbreaks for different
online
grade levels.
connectivity.
But you know, there are
Another,
also lessons that would somehow connect from the COVID to the
okay,
exploration
so
of the
we have
content
also
of
the
the
MOOC.
lesson in relation to COVID. It's a
Sige,
very
Jean,
good
i-forward na.
site.
Nagdali nagka-Jean kay 12 na di ay. Sorry, wala ko na pandayan ang oras. We have also self-directed learning content. Actually, Discovery Education, it is a free educational resource and lessons about viruses and outbreaks for different grade levels. But you know, there are also lessons that would somehow connect from the COVID to the exploration of the content and the lesson in relation to COVID. It's a very good site.
And I found everything in Khan. So you try to explore Khan
Forward,
Academy.
Jean. Okay. We have also here, you try to scan the very popular Khan Academy with free online lessons and practice in math, science, and humanities, as well as free tools for parents and teachers to track study progress. The Khan Academy has all the things. Actually, I have experienced it. I am looking for something and I found everything in Khan. So you try to explore Khan Academy.
It is a collaborative app.
Then we have also this Quizlet wherein very useful. I'm using this one in my class. Learning flashcards and games to support learning in multiple subjects. So you can actually do your assessment in the Quizlet if you want. Of course, YouTube is very popular. The LARC, I don't know if it is familiar to you. It is a collaborative app that interconnects like for example, if you have events and then it will connect to your calendar, it will also connect to your chat, and it will also lead you to some creation or recreation of mga lessons and images.
You can upload and download because there are also other learning platforms
so a lot
that
of
would welcome your
you try to
like
scan all this. Actually,
you can
maghatag man kog copy sa ako ang slides. You can use all these online resources. You can click all of those and it can really help you. Like for example, you have a lesson and you don't want to make a PowerPoint, you can just upload or download. You can upload and download.
Okay, these are
because there are also other learning platforms that would welcome your contribution. Like for example, the Teacher Tube. You can upload videos at the Teacher Tube, and at the same time, you can also download there some lessons.
Forms
Okay, next
of
please.
online resources. So these are my references. Okay, for the talk. And forward na lang, Jean.
Forward please, Jean.
It's already
okay, these are my
12:02.
references.
Sorry,
Oops.
bantayan ang oras. So,
Jean,
stay
nata sa
home,
references,
be
please.
safe, keep your distance, don't go out,
Okay.
phone a friend.
So you are going back with the
online chat,
external
read a book,
repositories.
write a letter.
Those are actually
These are
some
actually sample messages
forms
that you can
of online resources.
you
So these are my
can write,
references
and then you can show this
for the talk.
online to
And
your students.
forward na lang, Jean.
It's like telling them that you care.
It's already
So stay at
12:02. I'm so sorry. Wala na ako na bantayan ang oras. So stay home,
everyone.
be safe, keep your distance, don't go out, phone a friend, online chat, read a book, write a letter. These are actually sample messages that you can write, and then you can show this online to your students. It's like telling them that you care. So stay at home, sweet home. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, JMC. Thank you, Jose Maria College Faculty, Administration. Thank you.
The next part of this talk supposedly is all about the students in the new normal, and then to be followed actually by the pedagogy and andragogy. Magkulang na gid kay tag time. So
I can answer, and then pwede po sa akong messenger so that I
in
can
some
answer
events,
din.
in some occasion, I hope
Thank
I
you,
see you
ma'am.
again.
Sorry, naghanap akong laptop.
Thank you, JMC.
It's
Thank you,
alright.
Jose Maria
I'm
College
just worried because
Faculty,
it's already 12
Administration.
and
Thank
nalapas ko
you.
sa time.
Jean,
Ma'am, thank you.
if there are questions, if ever kanang alas 12 naman no, they might be hungry. I am just concerned. Pwede nimo ipadala sa akong email so that I can understand, I can answer, and then pwede pud sa akong messenger so that I can answer, Jean.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, naghanap akong laptop.
It's all right. I am just worried because it's already 12 and nalapas ko sa time.
Simplified content of our curriculum, in which we had to identify the most essential lessons. So thank you so much for that one, Mom Ruby. That was a very informative yet very inspirational presentation for the new normal process of education. Indeed, we had learned a different perspective that we need to acknowledge for us to be more efficient in our delivery for academic instruction in connection with the simplified content of our curriculum, in which we had to identify the most essential lessons to still have a student-centered approach towards our lesson. Indeed, we also had learned different strategies and approaches, not just in online but also offline. And also teachers, we also need to remember that we need to be motivated in these times of circumstances in the pandemic era. So thank you so much, Ma'am Ruby. Sorry, Ma'am, naghang dyan akong laptop. No? Sana ni siya.
Your call.
So thank you, Ma'am. Actually, we do have questions po from...
Hello.
Hi, Ma'am. Good morning.
Hi, Ma'am Jo.
Is
From
everyone
the
still
teachers.
okay? Yes.
Very much okay.
I am very
How are
patient
you
in
there?
answering questions and inquiries for as long as they
Jean,
are also
how is
willing to
everyone?
extend time.
Are still okay that we
Well, it's up to
extend
you.
for a few minutes?
Your call.
For Ma'am
Okay.
Ruby to answer
Ma'am
if
Jo.
it's okay with Dr. Serano.
Hello.
Hi, Ma'am Jo. Good morning.
Hi, Ma'am Jo.
Is everyone still okay?
Well,
Yes.
I am
Very much okay.
open to
How are you
extension of
there?
time.
Fine.
It's just so happen
Dear
the last time
teachers,
I am not
deans,
really in
how
my
is
best of
everyone?
health. That is why
Are still
I did not
okay that
stay
we
that
could
long.
spend for a few
And I was not
minutes
able really to expound details. They can
for
also
Ma'am
ask
Ruby to
me
answer if
questions
it's
related
okay
to the
with
first topic.
Dr. Serrano? Okay.
Well, this is my opportunity of saying as well.
You know
that
me
what's
very well.
really
If I am
the
feeling
hardest topic
well,
for me
I
this
am very
time. I was
much
not really
open
in my best
to
of health.
extension of
But I really
time.
tried my best to
It's
finish
just so
that
happen the
talk.
last time that I am not really
Thank
in
you,
my best
ma'am.
of health. That is why
I guess
I did
there
not
are
stay
only
that
two
long.
questions, right? Okay.
And I was not able really to expound details. They can also ask me question related to the first topic.
Ma'am Ruby, we have here a question
Well,
from
this is my
Bea.
opportunity of saying as well that that was really the hardest time for me the other day. I was not really in my best of health, but I really tried my best to finish that talk.
And still
It's
trying to
okay.
adapt to the
Thank
new
you,
normal.
ma'am.
Question
Okay.
is,
I
since the
guess there
students
are
are
only
also
few
facing similar
questions, right?
challenges
And
and might
then
have
for
poor
others, maybe
performance
they can just
based
email their
on their
questions.
outputs, tasks, and
Okay,
assessments,
ma'am.
up to what extent
Ma'am
should
Ruby,
the
we have here a
faculty or the
question
school
from
be
Ma'am Bea.
considerate with this? Like, for example, the submission of
Since the
their
remote
outputs and
learning is something
tasks.
new to us here in the Philippines, surely the
Hello,
faculty
Miss
face a lot
Bea.
of difficulties
How are
and
you?
challenges and still trying to adapt to the
Ashay
new
Mike.
normal. The question
I would
is,
just like to
since
share
the students are also
my
facing
own
similar
experience.
challenges and
I
might
would
have
like to
poor
answer in a way
performance
by telling you
based
that
on their outputs,
I
tasks,
have
and assessments,
actually
up to
list
what
of tasks and
extent should the faculty
assessments.
or the school be
But
considerate
what
with
I did
this?
is that
Like,
I
for
trim it
example,
down in
the
such a
submission of their
way
outputs and
that my
tasks.
learners can Hello, Miss Bea. How are you? Well, Jean is one of my students in the masteral, and I would just like to share my own experience. I would like to answer in a way by telling you that I have actually list of tasks and assessments, but what I did is that I trim it down in such a way that my learners can cope up with the tasks and requirements. Well, Jean is one of my students in the masteral, and she knew very well how considerate I am in giving them the tasks, the dates, the extensions, and as well as the time to do the corresponding assignments. I really give them the time. And at the same time, I adjusted also our synchronous and asynchronous meetings. So your question is actually more of what if the students cannot comply with the task or requirement, because surely it will affect the grades of the student. At the very first or at the very onset of giving the tasks and assignments or responsibilities, I mean, it is our task as teachers that if we do have the assignments, then would it be possible for us to trim it down? Or if not, you try to distribute the points in such a way that you will give less point to the task that you feel would be very difficult for them to achieve. Like in my case, I have an assignment which is recorded oral presentation. So I believe that if I will let them have the oral presentation online, then they will have difficulty because of the internet issues. So what I did, I transported the oral report into a recorded report. By that, I am giving them the possibility that they can comply the requirement. I have also another task which is lesson planning, which is quite difficult because they have to apply worksheets. And there are a lot of lesson plans that I indicated. I think it is 4 and 10 worksheet each. So meaning 40 kabuk ilang buhaton plus 4. So in the distribution of the points, what I did, I put premium to the task that the possibility of complying is high, meaning there is more points for that. For the task that is quite difficult for them to really achieve, I had distributed it in such a way that it would be fair and just to them. Because we cannot just say that do not do this because this is already embedded in the assessment task that was approved by our council in the curriculum committee. So I cannot just erase one of the requirements. So what I did, I made it a point that there will be some modification of the task so that they can also I am also helping them to do the task
at the same time, I am also giving them the possibility of complying the task by way of making it not a burden to them. So it's like that.
High premium, high points to that. It's one way
Thank
of
you po,
helping
ma'am.
our
Noted.
learners because whether we
So
like
if
it
you
or
had
not,
already given the
the
task,
learners
I think you can
will suffer at the end
recalibrate.
if
Why
they
don't you
cannot
try to
comply. So
recalibrate
that's
the
the context
points?
of it.
Like among all the tasks that I had given, which is the most
For that,
difficult,
Ma'am
then I will
Ruby,
give
we have one last
a few
question po.
points. And
Still
then
from
for the
Ma'am
task
Bea.
that you feel that they can really
Considering
do
that the
very,
medical
very
technology
good,
requires
very well, then
laboratory
you put high
competencies that
premium,
strictly
high
is
points to that. It's
acquired
one way of
using
helping our
face-to-face
learners. Because whether
demonstrations
we like it or
and
not,
return
the learners
demonstration.
anew will
Does this
suffer at
mean
the end
that
if
we
they
have to
cannot
wait until the
comply.
government
So that's the
allows
context of it.
face-to-face or until the pandemic
Okay.
ends? Or do
Thank you
we
for
have
that, Ma'am
option B
Ruby.
for
We
this?
have one last question
Actually,
po.
I
Still
am
from
not
Ma'am Bea.
authorized to tell you something
Considering
of
that the
what is
medical
happening
technology requires laboratory
for the CHED
competencies
policy
that
standards
strictly
and
is
guidelines for medical
acquired using
professions, but
face-to-face
just
demonstrations and
I would just
return
like to give you
demonstration, that
a
does this
hint
mean
because
that
I
we
heard
have to
that
wait until the government allows
that are not
face-to-face
in the
or
medical
until the
field
pandemic
next year,
ends? Or do we
they are
have
still going to
option B
have
for
that
this?
probably
Actually,
virtual
I
on
am
the
not
job training,
authorized to tell you
but they
something
are
of what is happening
reconsidering the concept
for the
of
CHED policy standards and guidelines for medical
training,
professions.
face-to-face
But just
laboratory
I would just
exercises
like to
with
give you
some
like
medical
a
courses
hint
because
because
they
I
can
heard that
they have actually
for
outweighed the
other
different
professions
pros
that are
and
not in the
cons
medical
already, and
field by
they are
next
just
year,
trying
they are
to
still going to
really
have that
analyze what
probably
should be the
virtual on
guidelines,
the
the
job training,
policies, the
but they
standards
are
at the moment.
reconsidering
But
the
I am giving
concept
you
of
already a
a
hint that there is a
face-to-face
possibility
training
that
or
the medical
face-to-face
courses
laboratory
in terms of classes
exercises with
like
some medical
laboratory and on the
courses
job training,
because
there
as
is a
they
possibility that
have
are going to
actually
have
outweigh
face to
the
face
different pros and cons already,
delivery
and
by
they are
next year,
just
if not
trying to
depending
really
upon the policy standards
analyze
and
what should be the
guidelines that they will
guidelines,
set
the
up. But for
policies, the
other courses,
standards
we
at the
remain
moment.
until
But
such
I
a
am giving
time
you already
when
a
the
hint
government
that
will
there is a
declare that it's already
possibility
clear for us
that
to
the
have a
medical
face-to-face
courses in terms
classes
of
or
classes
contact
like
with our
laboratory and on-the-job
students.
training, there is a possibility that they are going to have a
Okay. So thank you for
face-to-face
that one, Ma'am
delivery
Ruby.
by
Ma'am
next
Bea,
year,
are
if
we good
not,
for that po?
depending upon the policy standards and
Yes po,
guidelines
yes
that
po.
they will set up.
Thank you very
But
much
for other
for
courses,
sharing
we
information.
remain until
It
such
was
a
really helpful
time
for us.
when the
Actually,
government will
it's true.
declare
I
that
am
it's
not
already clear
authorized
for
yet to
us to
really
have a
reveal to you, ma'am,
face-to-face
what is happening with the
classes
PSG
or
of that because in the
contact
first place,
with
I'm
our
not a member
students.
of the technical committee who is in charge of
Okay,
drafting the
so thank you
policies.
for
And
that
as far
one,
as I
Ma'am
know,
Ruby.
since
Ma'am
I
Bea,
am
are we
one of
good
the
for that
members
po?
of the a technical committee that is
Yes
also
po,
in
yes po.
charge of the
Thank you
teacher
very much
ed,
for sharing
particularly in the graduate
information.
school. I
It's
just
actually helpful
heard
for us.
of some
Actually, it's
plans
true.
about
I
it
am not
with
authorized
regards
yet to
to the
really
medical
reveal to you,
courses
ma'am,
on
what
how
is
they are going
happening with the
really to
PSG
experience
of that,
because
because in the
the
first place,
medical
I'm not a
course is
member
crucial. They really
of the
have to have
technical committee
an
who is in
actual
charge of drafting the
simulation or
policies.
if
But
not
as far as I
on the
know,
job training
since I'm one of the
because it's
members
really a
of
must for
the
them,
a
especially
technical
nowadays
committee
that
that
they
is
are
also in
considered
charge
as the
of the teacher
frontliners. So
ed,
they have to
particularly
really
in the graduate school.
experience
I
what
just
is
heard
in the
of
field.
some plans about it with regards to the medical courses on
Yes
how
po,
they
ma'am.
are
So,
going really to
thank you
experience,
po
because
sa
the
ano.
medical course is
Okay.
crucial. They
So
really
thank you
have
so
to
much,
have an
Dr. Ruby
actual
Serano, for
simulation, or if not,
being our
on the
resource
job
speaker for
training,
today's
because
in-service
it's really
training
a must for them,
seminar
especially
for our
nowadays that they are
faculty.
considered as the
Before
frontliners. So
we
they
end the
have to
session
really
po, can we
experience what is
request
in the
everyone to
field.
please turn on your cameras for us to have pictorial?
Yes po, ma'am. So, thank you po sa answer po.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Ruby Serrano, for being our resource speaker for today's in-service training seminar for our faculty. Before we end the session,
Alright,
po,
so I
can
think
we
we're good in
request
three.
everyone to
Okay.
please turn on
Others
your
are still
cameras
in the
for us to
process of
have
turning on their
pictorial
cameras.
po. And also, before we end the session po, we are reminding everyone to please fill all right, so I think we're good in three. Okay, others are still in the process of turning on their cameras.
Training seminar. It has been sent to our group chat already. Okay, so let's have a pictorial.
And also, before we end the session po, we are reminding everyone to please fill up the form provided by the HRMD, the evaluation form for this training seminar. It has been sent to our group chat already. One more po. Okay, so let's have a pictorial. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, so thank you so much, teachers. And for us to formally end the program, let us have the closing remarks coming from the Dean of the College of Criminal Justice Education, Dr. Ricardo Garcia. One more po.
Good morning, everyone.
3, 2,
Our founding
1.
president, Reverend Pastor Dr. Apollo Seki Buloy, other school officials, our very smart
Okay, so
resource
thank you so much, teachers. And for us to formally end the program, let us
my
have the
colleagues
closing
in the
remarks
academy,
coming from the Dean
fellow
of the
JMC
College
workers,
of
ladies and
Criminal
gentlemen.
Justice Education, Dr. Ricardo
As we
Garcia.
end our two occasions of meeting
Good
for
morning,
the
everyone.
faculty in service training, we
Our
are very
founding president,
grateful
Reverend
for
Pastor
increasing
Dr.
our
Apollo
knowledge
Seki
on the
Buloy,
fourth industrial
other school
revolution in
officials,
education, which
our very
relates
smart
on the current trends
resource
of
speaker,
automation,
Dr. Ruby Serano,
or the so-called
my colleagues in the
Internet of
academy,
Things,
fellow
as
JMC
well as
workers,
the
ladies and
ending back
gentlemen.
of the technology
As
towards
we
the
end
service of
our two
humanity,
occasions
which is
of
the fourth
meeting for
industrial
the faculty
revolution
in
of
service
education
training,
that
we are
places
very grateful
greater
for
importance on
increasing
human
our knowledge
intelligence,
on the fourth industrial
empowering us
revolution in
in
education,
creating the
which
new
relates on the current
socio-economic
trend
era
of
in relation
automation,
to Asian
or the
integration
so-called
with the aid of
Internet of
research
Things,
studies,
as well as the
and
bending back
also
of the
the new
technology
normal teaching
towards the service
strategies
of
we have learned
humanity,
today,
which is the fourth
applying the appropriate
industrial
theories,
revolution of
tools,
education
and
that
practices
place
on this kind
greater
of situation
importance on
in order
human
for us to
intelligence,
achieve our
empowering
institutional
us
goals.
in creating the
Finally,
new
on behalf of the
socio-economic era
management,
in
we would like to
relation
thank
to
once again our
Asian
resource
integration
speaker,
with the aid
Dr.
of
Ruby Serrano,
research
the
studies,
event organizers,
and
the
also
faculty
the new
participants.
normal
Your
teaching
presence
strategies
have
we have
been
learned
invaluable
today,
and,
applying
without
the
any doubt,
appropriate theories,
has contributed much
tools,
in
and
making the
practices
activity
on this kind of
a great
situation
success.
in order
With
for
this,
us to
we
achieve
look forward
our
to seeing you
institutional goals.
in our forthcoming
Finally,
faculty
on
in
behalf of
service
the
training
management,
on the
we
topic
would like to thank
Sixth
once again our
Industrial
resource
Revolution
speaker,
in Education,
Dr. Ruby
as
Serrano,
a
the
continuing
event
process for
organizers,
our personal
the
growth
faculty
and development
participants.
in
Your
attaining
presence
Jose
have
Maria
been
College
invaluable
vision,
and
mission, and goal.
without any
So
doubt
once again,
has
thank you,
contributed
and the
much
Almighty
making the
Father
activity
bless us all.
a great success. With this,
Thank you so
we look
much, Dr.
forward to
Garcia, for
seeing
that
you
one.
in our
And let
forthcoming
us have now
faculty
the
in
closing
service
prayer to
training
be led
on the
by
topic
the Dean
Sixth
of the
Industrial
College of Arts
Revolution
and
in
Sciences
Education
Education,
as
Sir
a
Mark
continuing
Alemania.
process for our personal
To end
growth
this
and
webinar,
development
let us
in
pause for a
attaining
while
Jose Maria
and
College
fulfill the
vision,
promises to
mission, and
Almighty
goal.
Father.
So once
Almighty
again,
Father, our
thank
Lord
you,
Jesus
and the
Christ, we
Almighty
thank you for
Father
all the things
bless
we have
us
done
all.
today, especially for this webinar on the
Thank you so much,
pedagogy or
Dr. Sia,
andragogy
for that
in
one.
teaching on this new
And
normal
let us have
educational
now the
setting.
closing prayer
Thank
to
you
be
so much
led
for
by
always
the
guiding
Dean
and
of the
directing us
College of
and
Arts
for
and
giving us
Sciences
all the knowledge,
Education, Sir
wisdom,
Mark
and
Alemania.
understanding Okay, so to end this webinar, let us pause for a while and feel the presence of Almighty Father. Almighty Father, our Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you for all the things we have done today, especially for this webinar on the pedagogy or andragogy in teaching on this new normal educational setting. Thank you so much for always guiding and directing us and for giving us all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in our field of work as teachers and educators. Thank you so much for our resource speaker, Dr. Ruby Serano, who patiently and eagerly gave and imparted us wide and very informative ideas and insights, especially in the different teaching methods and strategies using these modern technologies, and in motivating our students in learning different aspects, not only the knowledge they ought to learn, but also teaching them to have a good and right mindset in dealing real life situations. And Father, thank you so much for the success of this faculty in service training and for the participation and unity of all the faculty in our institution. We pray that you continue to guide us in pursuing this endeavor as educators to give to our students an assured, consistent, and quality education despite these challenging times of pandemic. And we pray that as we end this webinar, continue to protect us and keep us and our families always safe. This we pray in the Father's name, our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Number P, thank you po. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Salamat kaayo.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the deans, to the program heads, and to the faculty. Thank you.